Warning. The following contains bright, flashing lights and /or imagery that may cause discomfort and /or seizures for those with photosensitive epilepsy. Viewer discretion is advised.
Javier, last time you were here, we basically went around Tijuana and ate tacos for about a solid, more than half a day, I think. It was a food coma after that.
Yeah, you know what? I gotta give you props because you were able to last. Your endurance was very, very admirable. You were I would say near expert level for sure.
I was trying to pace myself. I'd never done that on for other people. You know, usually those taco safaris that I do are related to celebrating a divorce, getting over a death, or some sort of other horrible situation where you want to distract yourself. So let's go eat a bunch of absurd tacos in one day. Before we go into that whole aspect of life and food and adventure, tell us a little bit about yourself. You and I met online, basically talking about taco spots, recommendations, a place to eat, and stuff like that. Basically, tell us a little bit about you, though.
Yeah, shout out to answering my DM. I always say that tacos are the great equalizer. It doesn't matter how much money you make or what background you're from. Everyone wants to know where the best tacos are. Tacos pretty much rule everything around me. They've been the source of my income for the last, 5 years for just the niche of tacos. But unofficially, I've been writing about food professionally now for money for 17, 18 years now.
Wow. And where does that...
What the hell does that mean?
Where does that come from? I understand the taco is such an equalizer. I've been in places on the sidewalk with the governor of a state, and his bodyguards are over there eating tacos, and we're all on the street corner eating. I understand that aspect of it. It is true, and also the fact that you can't replicate it under a roof realistically.
We can get into the double standard of tacos later on. That's a contentious topic.
But journalism is what you went into first, right? This whole aspect of trying to.
So how the hell does someone end up being a food writer?
Yeah.
I think is what the question is summarized to. Food writer, it's a privileged as hell job. Every single morning, I take a deep breath and I realize that I have an extreme privilege and luxury of being able to, spend a day taking you out to go eat tacos and filming it and putting it up on YouTube and talking about punk and ska and, other stuff. But I arrived to it. I grew up as a punk kid. And
what years? Like what
that's
was
a great
your
question.
What was your punk year?
I formed my street punk band in East LA 2007. So I would say from to 2004 to 2000, maybe even sooner actually. I remember my first gig, a backyard gig, in East LA.
What was your East LA punk rock? What are your influences? This is early 2000s, I guess.
I gotta give props to Union 13.
Union 13.
Union 13. They're the only band from the hood, from the backyards of Boyle Heights in East LA that actually made it out.
Yeah.
They got a record deal with Hellcat or something.
Hellcat Records, yeah.
They released a masterpiece of an album called Islos Presents, which I actually have tattooed on my back.
Dude, I saw them with Los Kung Fu Monkeys here.
Yeah, well, that's
way back. But still, it's like they are known.
The synergy between Tijuana and LA. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
So I arrived at food writing because I just was reading the local publication LA Weekly. It was free on my way back home from school, and I saw this food critic named Jonathan Gold, who actually also had a punk band and wrote about punk, and he was writing about dumplings and falafel and tacos, and I was like, what the hell? You can actually get paid
to eat
food and write about it, and that was like my kind of Peter Parker moment. Like, with great power comes great. You know, like what, like how can I get there? Like if this white dude can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
And that was a seed that was planted in me. I was I was in ninth grade.
So you saw in him somebody who was also into punk rock, that was doing something interesting with the. I don't know, when you say he was into punk rock, it's a culture. So punk is a culture. It's an
anti-establishment culture.
It's an anti-establishment, which is weird. Like I consider myself a bit of a punk in my own way, and I grew up that way. But I went into the establishment and did some bunch of shit, you know, and then came out of it, you know. But seeing somebody that has your same cultural background when it comes to punk music, the style of it, the anti-establishment kind of like mindset of it, and then you add to that, and I'm also going to be a food critic. So you saw a window of that as far as a possibility. I
just like straight up. I mean, you know, I just thought like, what's more punk rock than getting paid to eat as a career?
That is the most punk rock thing in the world, probably.
And you know, if you're a writer, you know it early on in your life.
Yeah.
I always say, if you're a writer, it's a blessing and a curse, because you will go mentally insane if you don't have an output and you don't write. I kept a diary since I was in second grade. I watched this show, Nicktoons, called Doug. I don't know if you remember. You remember Doug would write in his diary every single day with his dog. Patty Mayonnaise.
Patty Mayonnaise.
His main squeeze.
Patty Mayonnaise, which means something completely different in Spanish, if you think about it. But have you ever thought about that? Sorry,
I haven't thought about that.
I remember seeing it. And I was like, wait, her name's Patty Mayonnaise. Say that in Spanish. And so you're even when you're a kid, you're trying to express or have things come out of your head, and you want to put them on a page, basically.
On a page. I was in second grade when I started my daily diary, and I just kept it going, you know, and kept it going. And then
what did that change for you? Did you feel less?
You feel release when you're a writer, or even if you're not a writer. You know, when you write your feelings out, you write back then it was like, dear journal, I have a crush on blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I try to get her flowers or something. You know, it was something dumb like that, right? But even just the act of like, you know, of physically writing your emotions, your thoughts, your reflections, your daily happenings in your life, that must have done something to me, because I just kept it going. You know, I think it was a form, you know, I grew up in a very kind of dysfunctional family, very broken home. And, you know, I always had writing in my diary, and that kind of like was my kind of, I don't know, release, I guess. Yeah.
Touchstone about, that's interesting. I didn't start writing till I was like 30, I guess. Well, when I say writing, I mean writing for other people. But I also kept a diary of a sort for most of my 20s. I remember the power that writing had for me when, you know, when you have an idea in your head and you don't, it's formless, and you put it on a page and it becomes something solid, you know?
Exactly. And everyone has ideas. Everyone, you know, we all like to hang out with people. We all like to we have ambitions. We have all these ideas that, imagine if you would just take just one of those ideas, write it down, and actually execute. Do something, you know? Yeah,
it's usually in the work of genius that we find our own castaway ideas, because we don't fucking do it. We just don't believe in ourselves. Is kind of like the lesson there.
That's why I always respect your stuff, because you always have all those white dichos, all those quotes from all those kind of very engaging, powerful quotes that, like, you know, it's a lost art.
For me, it was you know, just like you, I think. I couldn't find voices similar to mine, or experiences that other people, just like the food reporter that you read about, you know. I didn't have anybody like that realistically for my weird life experience. Musashi, I guess. That's why I quote him a lot, because I saw in him, this dude was really angry at the world, and he basically taught himself how to be the best at violence, and then he went and challenged everybody. Which I didn't do it that way, but, you know, I basically attempted the longest suicide attempt that anybody's ever attempted, I guess, by going into law enforcement in Mexico for that whole while. But definitely writing down some of these things, having quotes from people that you respect to kind of, or like you see somebody put into words something that you've thought about, and you have to share it, or you have to write it down, or you have to keep it somewhere. It's a very attention deficit disorder aspect of it.
There was a beautiful quote. I'm probably gonna butcher it. I'm gonna paraphrase it. That I saw Anthony Bourdain, rest in peace, posted, and he had said, "My whole life is a daily diversion of trying to find distractions to not feed my inner self that just wants to sleep in bed all day, watch cartoons, and smoke pot." That's what I actually want to do, but my whole life is just a never-ending chase of distractions to not let myself get to that point.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I was like, wow. It's like, I think like, that's, it just hits very deeply.
Yeah. You're writing about your experiences as you grow. You say your complex life, family life, I think is something, again, commonality with a lot of people that
you have no idea
that show up here with their story. What's missing? Like whenever I think about my own experiences and like experiences of people growing up, we realize what we're missing only later, right? Well, you're going through it, you don't know what you're missing until you look around and you see what's missing. Like, what was missing for you?
I think what was missing is taking myself seriously and and processing my thoughts. Because I think a lot of sons of immigrants or Mexican Americans or border kids here, we normalize a lot of fucked up shit.
Yeah. Yes.
We normalize a lot of fucked up shit, whether internally or whether stuff that happens in our world, in our worlds around us, and environment, and in our environments. And it's not until you're older and you allow yourself to feel that anger, that shit starts to change.
I mean, as somebody, I'm not a child of immigrants, but I am an immigrant myself. The swallow it aspect of it, you just swallow it. That's culturally. Growing up, did you ever have anybody in your family say, "What are you feeling? Share your feelings with us."
No, but I actually did have a lot of. I actually had the kind of since we're in a safe place here. Safe space. I actually don't talk about this a lot, but what led me to kind of get obsessed with food was reading a book by Michael Pollan, Omnivore's Dilemma. It was his first book on just eating and the messed up things that we put in our body sometimes without even knowing it. And as a teenager, that kind of shook me. I was like, what the hell? Made me into a vegan or kind of plant-based person. Now they call it plant-based, but that's not really sustainable if you're like a poor kid.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah. It's a very first world thing. So I actually lost a lot of weight and I actually had what is now called orthorexia. So it was an eating disorder because I just was afraid of eating. Yeah. And then I was able to just parlay that obsession with food into a job, writing about it every single day in my life. Yeah.
That's an interesting relationship inception. They have that complex relationship to food. And then, having it turn into...
Well, going back to your question of did anyone ever ask you that? No, because my oldest brother, Rogelio, he actually was the one who kind of was kind of like my second dad. And he had a nice job. So he had insurance, therapist insurance. So, his insurance had therapy. So he kind of was able to give me his therapy and I went therapy. And then they tried to give me antidepressants. Yeah. And I was very young and I think it was Lexapro or some shit. And I just remember I was just in a trial and I remember going to a punk show and not wanting to get in the pit. And I was what the hell is wrong with me?
Yeah, you're not yourself.
Yeah, you're shout out to antidepressants if you need them. I don't want to talk shit, but
I get it.
It wasn't for me. So at that point I started to just reflect more and just live through the trauma and just kind of deal with it.
Musashi quote, "Everything's within. Nothing outside of yourself. Everything's within." That aspect of it is interesting. I've had horrible fucking experiences with medication. I understand that. The whole not feeling like yourself.
Yeah, it works for some people.
Yeah. It's I'm all about it. Some people are all. I think age and what happens to us when we're young, and specifically somebody that's going through an immigrant experience or the son of immigrants in East LA with some of the issues that are going on in your life at that moment, are completely and utterly understandable that you feel the way you would feel depressed. And I think, I don't know, this whole trying to get a solution through a pill aspect of it for some people at that age actually does more damage in a lot of ways for some people. I don't know. On my experience, it's been that way.
I'm just glad that another topic is like that we could touch on is just like the Mexican tendency to just like not like doctors or not like medicine. So you're just like
you'll get shot and you will try and figure out a way not to go to the hospital.
We'll just walk it off.
Well, it didn't hit bone. You're fine. You know, like tuétano. No, you're not gonna get infected. You're fine. I get that.
Hydrogen peroxide all day.
Yeah, just fucking drink a Coke, walk it off. It's fine.
A Sprite. It has to be a clear
Sprite.
one. 7-Up. So Sprite.
7-Up. It sounds like a difficult process. This being a teenager, you find solace in writing. Mm-hmm. Journalism becomes this is the way aspect of it. Were you sure about it? Was it like a back and forth?
I was lucky. Yeah, I was.
How old were you when you just made?
So I got my first paid article. They paid me $200 to write about champurrado and tamales, and like for like a high school. I was 16. I was in 11th grade, and that was my Peter Parker. And I was like, with great power comes great responsibility. Like, other people will pay me to write about freaking champurrado and tamales. Are you serious?
Fuck no. So that's your first gig.
That's my first gig. $200.
Tamales, champurrado.
It was about Latino Christmas foods.
Okay, Latino Christmas food. That's a lot. That's a lot of calientes, buñuelos. But you're writing specifically about champurrados and tamales, which isn't...
Ponche.
Well, like, I'll take you around here. Champurrado and tamales are like emergency combat rations for Mexican workers. This is like in the morning.
It's working class Mexican protein bars.
Yeah, this is at work. Before we go out to work, everybody would be at the armory cleaning their shit, and one would run to the tamale and champurrado stand and come back with
to a tamal stand.
Tamal.
I'm gonna correct you, bro, because that's one thing that I take a lot. I kind of actually written about this subject. It's tamal, not tamale, because
tamales.
Tamal
or tamales.
Yes, exactly.
You can hear it here. Yeah. Tamale is tamal.
That's some Texan shit, bro.
I'm trying. It's weird trying to go from English and Spanish. Specifically, if I'm not native born, I have this tendency of overcorrecting.
Code switching. The art of code switching.
For me, it's I don't want to be treated differently because of an accent, which is a weird aspect. It's weird. So what's this article like? This article. It's your moment, your Peter Parker moment.
It was like, every writer, if you're a writer, you go back and read your old copy, your old writing, and you're like, if you're not cringing at yourself, then you're not doing it right. Because we always constantly grow, and it was pretty shitty article. I mean, 100%. It was.
I understand. I understand that aspect. But like, what are you thinking about when you're writing this article? I should really focus on the flavor, texture, profile of this description. What are you thinking about writing about this?
I think that's why I was able to grow in this space, because I just chose to not use all those like dumb food words. Like, how many times can you use toothsome or like fluffy or like delicious or like, there's all these kind of like extra curriculum food words that like just make food writing sound like a joke or like a parable. So where I've been able to thrive is finding the intersection of like how using food as a prism to show the socioeconomic just areas around there, or like the scene the environment around it. And even back then, I was able to draw parallels between more like family memories or reflections. And, there's this huge thing, on like representation in journalism, and like you said, you didn't have anyone else that did what you did, that sounded like you, that looked like you. So I think I started around the same time. I mean, I got like an early head start in that but again, I didn't even know that. Like, I didn't call my shit, like, I didn't like use the word Latino like over and over and over again to try like, I'm a big believer of show, don't tell.
Yeah.
So, I just showed and didn't tell, but without I just did it innately without trying to.
Yeah, people would see who you were through the way you would write and the way you would speak.
Yeah.
Slang words. Insider, cultural insider references. You know?
Yeah, and then I eventually realized that a lot of stuff, I always tell writers, because writing is an extremely cutthroat, competitive, field. If you want to be a journalist or a writer, you have to be really damn good. You have to be really fast. You have to, especially nowadays. But no one else is gonna have your experience, your experience as a human being in this earth, that reflection, that writing, that's gonna come out in your story. So I always tell that to people because. Again, talking about normalizing things. A lot of things that we grew up, my latest book, I did a book on carne asada culture. And if you think about asada culture, going to a backyard, having grilling some meat, you and I know about it, it's commonplace, but someone from the Midwest or someone from even northern, Northwest or in the East Coast, you're gonna be like, what the hell? You just go over to someone's backyard and there's a big feast and you drink beer and you have a good time and it's grilled meat. And it's not burgers and hot dogs. What? Yeah,
it's a birthday party for a 3-year-old, but there's bands playing in the backyard. What's going on?
So when you write about all these things, a audience finds it, and you're and then the audience will be able to, identify with you, and that's I think one of the most powerful things with writing.
That connection.
That connection, and you don't do it unless you. You don't find it unless you actually sit your ass down and do it.
Yeah. That's an interesting point of view. So you start writing from the perspective of, hey, I want to write about food, but also I want them to know a little bit about me, where I come from.
Yeah, personal essays. The power of personal essays. Using in journalism. If you go to school, which I dropped out, they'll teach you only use first person or I if as the last resort. But in this kind of quickly AI generated world that we're living in, that's all we have is our hearts, our big hearts.
The big hearts and the mistakes that it produces.
Exactly, and there's beauty in the mistakes, because you grow. Like I said earlier, you grow and you cringe at yourself, at what you're saying, and what you're thinking, and what you're writing, and then next time to not do that anymore. Hey, that was a cliche, bro. Just you gotta be don't do cliche.
This whole AI thing is freaky.
Oh yeah, I've had writers, because I'm an editor of a publication in LA called LA Taco, and I've had, I don't know, I can't say for sure, but I've had a feeling in my stomach that people have sent me AI generated copy.
So so you're getting our generation's uncanny valley feeling of seeing, I don't know, the Grand Moff Admiral show up in Rogue One, and that guy's not real. He's CGI. Something in my eyes is just telling me this motherfucker isn't real.
Yeah,
we're getting the same experience of now reading, reading somebody's. Did he read it? This seems too structured, or there's
generalist. It's general as hell. It's just general and those fluffy food words. And you can only use toothsome so many damn times, or foodie. I hate the word foodie so much. It's actually, I have a list of banned words that I don't publish. Authentic is one of them too.
Yeah,
it's a loaded term.
Yeah.
Toothsome, fluffy, creamy. There's all these kind of words that are overused. They can act as crutches.
Yeah.
Again, just go back to show don't tell. Instead of saying creamy, describe what it is.
And do you find yourself learning new words when you go to some of these places to eat yourself? I don't know, you go somewhere and these there's an expression, a new type of food. You see somebody that's local from a place and they're trying to bring their local food to LA, and it's a thing. So there's language that gets created.
Oh yeah, for sure. I always try to, I was a guest on the David Chang podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we were discussing when it's worth to try to order something in the native language of whatever restaurant you're eating.
Yeah.
Or are you insulting them by trying and butchering it, or are you honoring and trying your best? And I'm a firm believer that if you try your best to speak it, you'll get a little chuckle, a little laugh, and that opens up just a waterfall, a rush of just endorphins, just in trying with your server, And I try to honor the language more than just say guac. Yeah. Guacamole.
Every time I go into a restaurant that is part of another culture, I always think about going into somebody else's house.
Yeah.
So like I have to, like I'm really into Vietnamese food.
Oh, dude.
Like it's like that Filipino cuisine as well. And it's like a weird obsession that I have, and I love. Again, I'm known for tacos because this is where I grew up. But when I go there, I purposely like ask. I'm like a 5-year-old. I ask questions about everything.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
What is it? What is? How do you say that? How do you pronounce this?
Yes.
It's a big aspect of the way I like to experience food, specifically from another place.
Have you ever been to Brodard in Little Saigon in Westminster?
No.
Oh man, we have to go like ASAP. That place, if you like Vietnamese food, it will change your life.
I will figure that out, I guess. You start building a name for yourself, working L.A. area, California specifically, kind of like specifically writing about food.
Yeah, writing about it was back then in the LA Weekly days, in the alternative weeklies. They were such a fundamental part of journalism culture in the U.S. because they were a place that would give you a shot if you had no byline. So I started writing for LA Weekly, writing about local food, and then LA Times, freelancing too. I had a blog. I actually DIY'd it. Before all this, I had a food blog.
Yeah.
This is before food blogs were like an online diary of sorts that you would just write about food. And it was before Yelp, before Instagram. You would take photos of food with your big old bazooka DSLR camera.
Yeah.
So I started doing that, uploading
where
photos.
Where would you upload?
On Blogger, blogspot.com.
Blogspot.
And then I had my blog. I came up with a name for myself. It was called The Teenage Glutster.
Oh, yeah.
The root words were gluttony and gangster.
Yeah.
And then just teenager because I started when I was 16. And people like it. People liked it. People were commenting, and then I got a little plug on LA Times, and then some of the biggest moments in that early part of my career was when Jonathan Gold, who's the only food critic in the world to win a Pulitzer Award, rest in peace, he gave me full credit for finding like a new mole restaurant in East LA that did like different moles. They had like passion fruit mole with venison.
I learned about this place from this guy.
Exactly, and he like
how did that feel?
He fully gave me attribution credit.
Did you know him by then, or was this like you're still admiring?
Yeah, so at that
afar?
point I had so this is I'm teaching a class right now for USC on Tijuana food and culture, and one thing that is getting lost in this generation is just the art of sending a cold email. Just if you look up to someone, just send them a cold email. So
yeah.
I sent a cold email to Jonathan Gold when I was reading his stuff, and he responded. And then that was the beginning of something very special in my life. And he kind of took me under his wing. Through him, I was able to have more of a mentorship kind of career path, as opposed to like
this aspect of mentorship is something I've talked about on this podcast several times.
It's important.
I had one of my mentors like sitting right there where you were, Lieutenant Colonel Lizola. He was instrumental in me not being a piece of shit, at work and as a human being. What was he to you? Like, what was his part? I mean, obviously you had the passion, you had the drive, you had your life experience that you were going through, trying to figure things out. You knew what you wanted to do. You saw in him some inspiration, but as a mentor, we talk about him being a mentor. Like, what was his function as a mentor to you?
Well, the world of journalism has lots of flaws. One of them being that publications are lazy and editors are lazy and go back to the same old people to tell the same old stories.
Yeah,
and it's kind of hard to break into, or get a referral or get kind of get your foot in the door if you're like a kid with no byline. So Jonathan Gold referred me actually for that publication, my first one, and then also LA Times. I eventually became his restaurant scout. I was the extension of his belly, so he trusted me. So this mentorship, he ended up opening up a lot of doors in my life. I was even in his documentary called City of Gold. If you haven't seen it, it's a beautiful film. It's like a love letter to food culture, LA food culture. And so with that, I was able to actually I wrote my first cover story for a very glossy and prestigious magazine in New York called Saver on La Comida de Zacatecas. It was where my mom is from. Zacatecas. And
spicy place.
I mean,
it's one of the spiciest places around.
I was going there. I went there in 2010, and it was I like to say I got the tail end glory days of like journalism because the magazine flew me out, my mom and I. I met all my tias over there. They gave me like this white photographer dude, and that was around the time when I think when Zetas were just getting there, and it was literally like, I shit you not, it was literally like you don't say their name out loud.
Yeah.
It was literally like Los Zetas.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't go out at night. And my white photographer friend who's still around, shout out to Todd, he was like, what are y'all so scared of? And he would just go out and go buy beer at night, like no big deal. Luckily nothing happened, but that was around the time when like I think they were just setting up.
Yeah, right now it's Sinaloa cartel, the New Generation cartel, and what's left of the Zetas, basically having added for that very lucrative corridor of drugs. But Zacatecas is amazing. It's an amazing place.
Beautiful.
Beautiful food there. It's its own thing.
Yeah, food is very humble there. It's just, you'll have like 19 different styles of like varieties of beans.
Yep.
Amazing, stinky, beautiful cheese that smell like patas and taste amazing in a quesadilla. Beautiful handmade corn tortillas. Tunas. There's so many. I love tunas. Yeah. Tunas are. I hate how people in the U.S. call them prickly pears because then you draw like you subconsciously draw a comparison to a pear. I call them a cactus fruit in English. And they have like just as many styles as they have like apples in the U.S. They have like tunas. They have like red ones, yellow ones, purple ones.
Yeah, here we only have red and green. I remember going out there and seeing that just a varied rainbow of choices they have. I remember somebody handing me a bolillo in Zacatecas and digging out the inside of it, bare hand. This old lady. I was at a house. We were being held up at a house for a bit. Lady there, we paid her 200 pesos to feed 4 guys. Wow. She went to the store. She couldn't walk. I don't know how she was old. She went out and came back with a basket and a bunch of bolillos wrapped while the beans were cooking. And she gave all of us a bolillo, ripped out the middle part of the bread and gave it to us really warm. And we ate it. That was heaven. Wow. Bunch of 28-year-old, 5-year-olds basically at that table at that moment. And a spoon of black beans and cheese that smelled like feet. Yeah. And the café la olla. This burnt-ass fucking coffee pot. Dude, that lady was, when we got there, we were trying to keep her safe from her breaking or... like, what do you need? You're like, and at that moment, she was feeding us. She was God. Mm-hmm. Like 4 guys on that table, all very highly capable dudes. She's God. She's fucking feeding us beans, bread, and cheese.
That sounds like the Zacatecas story. You probably also are missing nopales. That was we eat a lot of nopales in Zacatecas.
Nopales, yeah.
It's actually, I think, the capital for. It used to be, I don't know if it still is, on like exporting nopales to the U.S. Yeah. So all the nopales that you find in like Mexican supermarkets across the U.S. are probably from Zacatecas. And I'm sure now it's a lot more different, but
yeah, the experience of that cross-cultural border experience, specifically around L.A. and Tijuana. When we first met, a lot of our conversations were related to like bands that we knew and spots that we would go eat. And I just realized how connected these two cultures are, cities. When I say cultures and cities, I mean, like one of my first guests here on the podcast was a guy named Conejo. He's a rapper. Oh, yeah. That I was a part of arresting here in Tijuana and then sending back to the U.S. But when we're friends now and we're cool. And when we talk about our kind of like when we were both moving around, running around, is the aspect of he's from LA and I'm from TJ, how similar these two cities are as far as their stories, the people, the food, and how it's like it's basically a place where people exchange places every now and then. They move back and forth between these two places. What was your relationship to traveling to Mexico? Like you say Zacatecas for journalism, but like you write about tacos a lot and border culture, and you're about to speak to a university on this subject, which is what better person to do it? What got you into this whole, hey, let's go see what it's like beyond this place where people say it's dangerous?
So for Tijuana and so I would say the first place that I grew up going to, my dad would take me to Mexico City because he used to have like an apartment structure there, a couple of them. And then so I grew up going to Mexico City, but like in like the kind of barrio parts of Mexico City.
Yeah, this is Tapalapa. Where the hell were you?
It was like Ahuizotle. I haven't gone in a long time.
Yeah.
And
This is Barrio Bravo place.
Yeah.
This is fucking
by la refinería. It's like a little closer to
the refineries.
I grew up going there, and then but Tijuana, I also started coming here with my dad, and when I was getting older, I started to realize that there was a big connecting topic that both Tijuana and LA had, and that was that both cities are misunderstood and easy to hate on.
Yeah. If you're not from there, you can shit on it all the day.
Yeah, and you probably will continue shitting on it. So I was able to form that kind of that comparison, that similarity early on. In 2000, maybe this must have been 2009 or 10 or something. Cotuco, which is the tourism board here, they bust out a bunch of like food writers for like, just to kind of, it was like probably like the version 1 of like food, the food media, like the food explosion here. Placencia was kind of hitting his stride. Valle was just kind of taking off. I think there were only like 10 restaurants in Valle back then. Or I mean, I'm sure there were a little more, but the ones that were kind of big. So I mean, Valle. When I say Valle, I say
Valle Guadalupe.
Valle Guadalupe, which is Mexican wine country, which is a beautiful, amazing place that.
Don't tell anybody. It's ours.
I mean, everyone already knows. It's so expensive. It's good, but it's amazing.
For a while, I got to enjoy that El Valle Guadalupe. I got to enjoy it when it was like a local thing. Still.
Yeah, that's a sore subject. If you're like someone from Ensenada or someone from like the region here, and you talk to them about Valle and they grew up going there, it's mutated into like
it's insane,
a beast of capitalism.
It's insane. Well, what locals do is we'll go there during the week. We'll get sick. We'll get sick on Thursday or something like that and fucking go. It was like a bus. It was like a bus of like a bunch of chefs and like media. And we just kind of ate. I did the exact same thing that you and I did. We just kind of ate, but like so much more. It was probably like 10 stops in a day, and it was for 2 days, and it was like probably like 24 place to eat in like 2 days. And if you're a food expert, you just do it. I mean, this is our moments. This is our moments. And so I that kind of was instrumental in losing my fear. And losing my personal fear. When you say fear, what were you afraid of, or what was the looming conversation around Tijuana that happened? I mean, I was young back then. And you don't travel as much when you're younger, and I didn't because I couldn't afford to. So coming to Tijuana, losing that fear of just like being able to come on my own and just drive in, drive out, or walk in, walk out, which is my hack. I actually park in the U.S. side. Yeah, it's gotten so expensive now. They jacked up the prices, but it's still worth it. So just kind of coming here and just seeing that like Tijuana's almost exactly like L.A. in the terms of like there's a lot of crazy pockets, but there's also a lot of gloriously grimy places, like pockets. Yeah, and it's just like LA. It could be anything to anybody. Tijuana. It has very high class value neighborhoods and luxury apartments, and it has slums made out of cardboard. Mm-hmm. It's humanity. It's humanity, and it's exactly like LA. If I love seeing the reactions of like tourists whenever they pass through Skid Row, and they're just their faces of like just utter shock and disbelief, or even like Hollywood Boulevard, or just like the homeless situation in LA. And then I think like that kind of, because I kind of, at one point I used to bring people to Tijuana on like a monthly basis. Yeah. Because I if I like you, I'll take you for a taco crawl in LA. If I really like you / love you, I'll take you to a taco crawl in Tijuana. Yeah. The tacos here are just, the worst taco here is better than like the best in LA. You'll get hate, but I understand that aspect of it. Culturally speaking, you come here as a son of immigrants. How does it feel? Like, I'm from here. Like, I was born in Mexico, and I am an immigrant to the United States. And I meet children of immigrants, and I meet first generation Americans, and I meet people that are very adamant about being called Latinx, and I meet people very adamant about not being called out Latinx. There is definitely an identity dysphoria of a sort with a lot of young men in the Latin community, children of immigrants, and I've gotten to experience them coming to places like Tijuana, like you, where you are here and you're treated like a gringo, is what some like to say. I'm treated like a foreigner, but I'm Mexican. And there's this weird kind of back and forth as far as, am I Mexican? Am I Latin? Am I Latinx? What am I? What the hell am I? Do you feel any of that coming here?
So my story is a little different because I've grown a lot in this topic of, Chicano identity, Mexican American identity, because I married a Mexican woman. I married someone from Puerto Vallarta who, went to university in Guadalajara, and like she's Mexican, and like
does she have a vaccine scar? She's probably really a Mexican if she does.
And but I when I met her, I told her that I was like, oh yeah. She's like, oh, and where are you from? And I was like, oh, I'm Mexican. And then she's like, oh, like what part? I'm like, L.A. And she's like, wait a minute, you're not Mexican then? And I'm like, oh crap, I'm not. So
that's a weird perception.
That's a weird perception because
for Mexicans,
we go in L.A. In LA, you go around telling, oh yeah, Mexican, haha. It's like pop culture, there's all these like memes about it and stuff. But when you actually meet someone from Mexico, you realize that it all boils down to just like privilege, and it's much different if you're an immigrant, And I realized this, the hard way, because some of the biggest arguments that my wife and I first had was my incessant, stubborn pride for using words like marqueta and troca.
Yeah.
And then her, as someone from La Interior de Mexico, not like La Frontera, someone from deeper Mexico, she was like, those words don't exist in like Spanish. What are you talking about? And I was like,
those are border words.
But these are art words. You don't get it. And she's like, but that's not proper Spanish. You don't get it. So we would argue like for hours about like language, like legit arguments. And I would, so there's radical differences in Chicanos, Mexican Americans, and Mexicans when it comes to actual privilege. And frankly, I've learned this. A lot of it has to do with like a victimized mindset.
Oh yeah,
a victimized mindset of Chicanos. There's a thing that
as soon as you get here.
Yeah, they sell it as soon as you get there, and I get it. There's trauma. There's like the Chicano walkouts. Like the breakouts when you couldn't speak Spanish in school in like the '60s, or all the history of like the Zoot Suit riots and the Pachucos getting beat up. On along Whittier Boulevard and Ruben Salazar getting killed. But all that happened so long ago. And yes, I'm not gonna forget it. But my wife always tells me, ya superalo, get over it. And I'm never gonna forget this moment. I was 2 hours late, and the first time I met my wife, she was living in Portland, Oregon. She flew into LA to see me. It was a Friday, but that Friday I was taking a Chicano history class, and that was the day that we were taking Nahuatl classes.
Okay.
And notice I say Nahuatl, not Nahuatl. All right, I took it, and I like took my sweet time because I really wanted to. I was really, I think every kind of Mexican American goes through like, oh, I'm indigenous, whatever. and then like I was 2 hours late. My Vespa broke down. I had to go in my dad's car, and like I told her, I was like, oh, like, and what took you so long? And I was like, oh, it's because I was taking a Nahuatl class. And she's like, why are you learning to speak dead language? Why don't you apply that same that same time and energy to learn how to speak proper Spanish so you can talk to me better? And I was like,
it's perspective.
Damn, you're
perspective.
Right.
It's a perspective. Native culture in Mexico. There's some people that appreciate it, respect it. I mean, I grew up around a bunch of cumbia.
Yeah.
And like, they're great. They know shit. They make fucking amazing birria de pozo. Best that I've ever had. But they will want to be me and take off that culture and want to go live in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a Mexican mindset aspect of it. We don't native pride. None of that is kind of like here in a way. And every single tribal group in Mexico is very tribal. It's separate. And doesn't talk. They don't talk to each other. It's an interesting aspect. Latinos or Chicanos in L.A. versus Chicanos in Texas. Completely different thing.
Yeah.
And I travel a lot, and I talk to all these people. Weird things. In history books, we learned in Mexico that the Alamo was about keeping slaves. In the U.S., Davy Crockett and all the story behind it's completely different, right? Mexico enacted the first anti-slavery laws in the continent, and people that were living in Texas did not want those laws to be applied there. So Mexico sends its military to enforce those laws, and the aspect of it, how history, depending on where you were from, and what's told to you and what feels better to you, that is what gets put into your programming.
Yeah, that creates the narrative. Like that was one thing that I'm again, I used to identify with like ni de aquí ni de allá, which is like that's like the golden phrase, like the tagline for Chicanos, right? And we pride ourselves in kind of saying, when I go to Mexico, I get otherized, but in U.S. I'm also otherized. But then, my wife was like, no, you have a privilege. You have, eres de aquí y de allá.
Eres de aquí
so
y
a
de
slight context shift.
Yeah.
And just kind of like
from
ni
here
de aquí.
and there.
Yeah, and that context shift is like the different perspective of like, feeling victimized or kind of like de pobrecito de mí, like poor me, or just being like, hell no, damn it, I'm from both, and I can identify with both, and that's a damn privilege, and it's just at that point it's a matter of just learning how to speak or trying your best to speak better Spanish.
I think there's two extremes to that that I've seen in my experience. I don't know. There is the Mexican immigrant experience of going to the U.S. and completely killing every aspect of your culture, so your kids don't get treated differently and they assimilate. That's one extreme. The other extreme is we are victims coming here. We're victims in the place that we're from. We're victims here. I deserve this. I need this. This I should get this. I am not only Mexican. I'm fucking Mexica. That aspect of it. They go to that extreme of it. I don't know. There's something. I have an American daughter, and with her, I've been trying to show her country's history, but also her culture. When I mean by her culture, I mean American and Mexican culture, because the U.S. does have a culture. If people say that the U.S. doesn't have a culture, it's not as rich as the Mexican culture.
It's young.
It's not as old per se as Mexican culture in a lot of ways. It's not as wild, like it's not as, when I say not as wild, I mean there's some wild shit in American culture. I mean I went to Tennessee and saw a bunch of people dancing with poisonous snakes to prove their faith.
Whoa.
And this was Tennessee. As somebody from Mexico, where you crucify people every now and then here, I can see the wildness in that aspect. There's a reason why some of the more Kentucky, Tennessee parts of the country in the U.S. have been where I've found my American experience, I think. Those are the places where I've found myself in America, in the U.S., in my mind, I think.
And there's also a lot of Mexicans there now.
Yeah.
In the South.
Yeah. But how to save that? And I think a big way I've tried to save that cultural aspect for her, for my daughter, has been through food.
Yeah.
Food is an interesting thing. Even in some of the most the families that I've seen that have gone through the most cultural, the food survives some of that. Sometimes it's there still. The aspect of being able to communicate with your ancestors through food is something we do here during Day of the Dead, for example. And how my daughter knows the favorite food of people, that family members of hers that she'd never met. She knows what her great-grandfather's favorite food was.
On this topic, real quick, this morning I got up early and I published a story exactly on that. Yeah. So there's a new exhibition at the only Mexican food museum in the country, in the U.S., called La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, and they actually, right now, I think it just started, but it's an exhibition, an art exhibition that is like publishing or like with photography and cookbooks and recipe cards. Es las recetas favoritas de la gente desaparecida de México.
Yeah.
So it's literally a photographer. Her last name is Lucini. She's from Argentina, but she went around to all the different collectives around Sinaloa and Guanajuato, and found the recipes of their disappeared people in Mexico.
Yeah.
And going back to like how powerful food is, I love her quote. She was like, why should their rich life stories be summarized into their disappearances? Why can't we switch the narrative and talk about instead the food that they love to eat and the recipes that they love to cook?
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, food is extremely powerful in that way. And it can be, again, just going back to the intersection of using it as a prism, and the tragic topic of gente desaparecida in Mexico, the people who disappeared in Mexico and I never found. There's even a food angle there.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's weird. And also, I mean, pozole.
Pozole.
Yeah, that's the food angle there. And I actually got to see him and just look for some of those bodies myself when I was working. The story of pozole is pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, that's like it's like the story of avocados.
Yeah,
testicles, and then pozole. What? Human sacrifice meat.
Yeah, basically, somebody would tax a town nearby, the Mexica Empire, the Aztec Empire, and since he was under the protection of the Mexica Empire, he's untouchable until he wasn't. And all the women that he had his way with tore the fucker apart, and they made him into a big pot of pozole. That's supposedly the legendary origin story of that. I'm not sure if it is or not. But yeah, in Mexico, food is a way to communicate. It has a language. It talks about privilege. It talks about where you are in the social stratus, love, sadness, bar food.
Cantinas.
Cantina bars. Like I remember getting. It was weird. Somewhere in Guadalajara, I had a fish broth brought to my table. Cantina food, just fucking fish broth.
That's just nourishment in its purest form.
And it's like, what is this for? Es para el aguante. It's for the.
Yeah, you're drinking. You need some substance.
It's for the long run, basically.
Oh,
it's para el aguante. But yeah, definitely, food in Mexico definitely has its way of seeping into different things that would be surprises as far as the language goes. Yeah, that's like a tradition we have before we get here. It's always him though. Abi, like we're talking about our the man behind all the magic here at the studio. Abi. Basically he was my mentor when it came to horror movies and tacos. I think Avi knows all the best places to go eat, like the best tacos. What's the name of that birria place? The last birria place we went to. The one on Benitez.
I can't remember. It was like a town name.
He's always like, hey, I know we're gonna we have to go and record a podcast, but we need to go to this fucking birria place that I just found. It's like, fuck. So we go out of this fucking way, 30 minutes. So the car almost gets crashed into. The people there are not friendly at all, or welcoming, or warm.
Taqueros?
Taqueros are just like, you can see them. They're from a very specific part of Mexico where people don't say good morning, I guess. And they're like, and there's this weird thing where it's like, what they have, Abby? They have fresh squeezed orange juice and birria. It's like, what the fuck?
Sounds like my perfect freaking breakfast.
But I didn't know. So he's like, try it. Every birria place has a different. There's something different to all of them that makes it magic. This one was just basically the unwelcoming, unfriendly nature of the place. And the fact that the birria was just fire. The tortillas were fire. The consommé was fire.
Was it like dorado, like crispy?
Yeah. Oh, Abi's always asking for dorado, extra dorado.
Hell yeah.
I talk about this because that was before we started recording. He's like, we went to birria. It's like, hey, Abi, you're burning us. Stop burning us. the aspect of street tacos and how they've become almost like a mainstream thing, from cartoons to stickers to emojis to work environments now being influenced by Taco Tuesdays or whatever the hell is going on.
To series on Netflix.
Netflix series is, which I have some questions about. We'll talk about that in a bit. But like the aspect of the taco now becoming this, it used to not be that. What's changed culturally for the taco? The taco in American minds was usually Taco Bell. That was taco. That used to be tacos in most mainstream American minds and internationally as well. The hard shell, shredded cheese, cabbage, or whatever you want to put in there, and meat. What changed?
I think what changed was, the demand for content, first of all, and, this kind of new generation of individuality with food. Yes, like you said, tacos used to be like just working class food. There was no glamorization around it. If you knew good spots, you knew where good spots are. If you were a writer, you wrote about them, you interviewed them. But with the surge in like content, social media, influencers.
Look at me and where I'm eating.
Exactly. And which I have a kind of problem with, but whatever. It's the demand for content just led for this nonstop just machine of looking for place to cover. I would say also a lot of like kids of immigrants, a lot of like immigrants, grew up, had a little more power, a little more, they were refining their careers, and they're like, oh, let's do tacos. Let's cover tacos. Let's cover tacos in a way that there's my boss. I will give a shout out to my boss, Pablo Cruz. He is the creator of the Taco Chronicles on Netflix, and he's also the executive director of the Luis Miguel series. So the Netflix series, the Taco Chronicles was like small fries for him.
Luis Miguel was everything. It was everything. That series was great.
Luis Miguel. He actually came out on it. He was like the executive in the end that like sat down the table.
Dude, fire series. I only know about Luis Miguel through his music. No fucking clue how fascinating that guy's life was. But yeah, that's a great show.
And then, it's like if they could, I think it all goes back to why if they can do it, why can't I? And Chef's Table on Netflix was, had already, I don't know how many seasons. They brought like a very beautiful theatrical element to food, to kind of fine dining food, which lends itself for that. But Pablo Cruz was like, can't we do that for tacos? Him and I have been trying to work on something I've known him for a long time, probably like 12 or 13 years. We tried to do a couple of pilots before, but then he got this Netflix, when Netflix did Latin America, he got this thing with them, and he asked me, he's like, hey, like, are you willing to be like my taco scout?
Yeah.
And like, just, I would trust you to just go and taste all the tacos.
Figure out the spots that we need to cover.
More importantly, the people behind them, right? And so I would say that's what changed, is that the demand for content. I mean, if we're being just real, if we're being real, like the demand for content and individuality and representation, and also just the need for these bigger companies to kind of have content that kind of would feed our demographic, right? Which is a big ass demographic. We have a lot of buying power.
So taking the street cart taco to the mainstream.
To the mainstream.
And then having what used to be, your poblano father, poblana mother, son, and maybe a few of their kids that were born in the U.S. working on this street cart somewhere.
Yeah, the multi-generational aspect
turning
of
into now it's like it's a cart, now it's a car, now it's a truck.
Now it's varias sucursales. Now it's a couple locations.
Now this is what makes us different. We add this to this, that aspect of it.
So yeah, exactly. So a lot of sons and daughters of taqueros, who grew up in this kind of social media age, and also probably went to school. And if you didn't hate the fact that you were, cleaning up after your parents' taquerias growing up, and if you kind of own that, the next stage in that was for them to carry the torch.
To turn themselves into the future of that
Yes.
family business, and
Yes.
that would lead into, well, I'm going to take all my exposition to social media, online streaming services, and just culture in
Marketing.
general.
It's marketing, and it's a way of there are some tacos out there that like are very mediocre, but the brand and marketing is so fire that like people become zombies and they just will like form lines to eat it because there's a line.
I'm from Tijuana. I have no idea why people have lines outside Tacos El Gordo. I'm gonna be the one to say that.
Okay, you said that. I can't say that because I'm not from here.
I said I'm from Tijuana. I have no clue why people form lines outside of that place.
I'll tell you why.
Well, that's that. Okay, I'll go.
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
No said.
That's okay. I get it. I understand. I understand that aspect.
Marketing. It's like a great. I remember I used to work at Vice Munchies in its heyday, and I remember I'm not gonna say who, but I was interviewing a baker, like a bakery that was one of those kind of like made for Instagram bakeries, which is the thing now. I call it stunt food. The term for it's like your business model is to literally have like a backdrop with like a neon sign that says something stupid, and you take a selfie, and then people post it, and then that's like marketing for it.
Yeah.
So there was a bakery, and he was so candid with me. The shop closed, by the way, because it was not genuine at all. But he told me, he was like, "Yeah, you know what? I just got this location because it looks good. Like it looks good to have a location in this part of town, in this part of the world." Tacos Los Gordos is exactly that.
Yeah.
They got their location in Las Vegas. Aside from it being one of the most affordable things to eat there, because Las Vegas gets expensive real quick.
Yep.
It's also a business card.
Yeah,
It's
I get it.
1,000%.
I understand. It's interesting. You see the aspect of Tijuana tacos. You talk about the children of immigrants becoming entrepreneurs and turning their family's business into a product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We don't have that here, though. Like here in Tijuana, it's usually, there's this meme online. There's a car, there's a little dilapidated car, and this is Dr. Jacobo's car, and there's this big ass monster truck, and there's this Tacos El Meño, right? Because people will make a killing here if they have good tacos, right? But it's usually this weird insular family business aspect of it here in Mexico that is apparent. And it's rare it's more common now, but fairly recently. It's rare to find any of these places that have social media. Like some of the places of the places that we went to,
Yep,
it wasn't even purposeful. It was like, these are the places that I would go eat to when I would be working here in Tijuana, and I wanted to treat myself to something because life sucks. Mm-hmm. But some of these businesses are unchanged. Like I remember one of them specifically had a Voltron,
Menu? A design?
Like a design drawing thing of Voltron on the wall that was behind this fridge there, I think, or like around next to this fridge. And it's been there since forever, since Voltron was famous, I guess. Wow. It was a thing on TV. And it just unchanges. It's like an aspect of tacos here on the border that I see versus the L.A., for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Food culture and food trucks and that aspect of it are seeping their way from the north now to the south, which is, two cities sharing a culture. But most of the legit places here are old, insular. Mm-hmm. They don't appreciate social media. Some of these places don't even have a sign. There's people's backyard. They don't want the inspection to show up to tell them they can't have a restaurant in their backyard. That's
why I love Tijuana so much, because it just flies solo. It just flies solo, and it's if you know, you know. And that aspect of it acts as almost like a taco, like safe haven, like a haven of tacos here, where if you know, you know, and if you don't, then too bad for you. Let the rest of us enjoy it, Yeah. And I love to quote, what's his name? I love the quote that is popular by Porfirio Diaz, and it's so far from God but so close to the U.S.
Yeah.
En español es
México tan lejos de Dios, pero tan cerca de los Estados Unidos.
I reflect on that quote a lot because if you spend time in Tijuana or navigating between both countries here, as you should, if you live in the U.S. and you have a passport, come to Tijuana, support it, come to Mexico. If you pay the exorbitant cost of living in California, come reap the benefits of that. And
San Diego South is what they're calling it jokingly now.
really?
Yeah.
What about East Tijuana?
East Tijuana is spicy. It's very spicy.
But is it true that they want to branch off and become their own city?
Yep.
How's that? Do you think that's gonna happen?
Probably not.
Okay.
Specifically, it's because of all the high rises are going up all over the city.
Traffic is insane here. Traffic is like worse than L.A.
90% of all new housing in Tijuana is being bought by Americans. Traffic is insane. Cost of living here and quality of living here in Tijuana. And this coming from somebody that's experienced quality of living in other parts of the United States and Mexico as well. There's a lot of things here. You know, there's a lot of things here that provide quality of life.
But we're low key. You're low key.
Low key. Yeah,
Like,
low key.
that's the name of the game. It's like keep Tijuana a secret.
The breadbasket of the region is to the east, and the ocean is to the west,
Yep.
and everything's fresh here. And another interesting aspect, I think, or an element of what goes into Tijuana's street taco dominance is that it is also a place where immigrants will come and try and cross. And a lot of those immigrants are usually from parts of the country that thrive on their culinary aspects, poblanos. So there's a joke here in Tijuana. There's about 4 or 5 tacos el poblano. Most people from those taco shops are from Puebla. There's something in those genes. There's something in that culture. I mean, these people will make mole for days. So a street taco they're gonna make, you know, it's pretty. I've tried to figure out what about it makes Tijuana street tacos an experience.
I love it. I tell anyone, and I'm willing to back this up in a dark alley, that Tijuana has the best tacos in all of Mexico. Bar none, no comparison. Because of what you said, it's so we have the Pacific Ocean right here. If you're in Mexico City and you're like at the fanciest, most expensive Mexican restaurant there, and you're having a crudo or ceviche or sashimi or fish, that fish is gonna be from
You can't see the
from
ocean.
Ensenada.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably.
I'm like, oh crap, okay. And then you have all that access to that here in Tijuana without that kind of douchebaggery of Mexico City. And I just prefer my like if I were to choose one taco that I can eat for the rest of my life, I just love a good taco de asada, mesquite, so it's a little smoky, it's a little tender, and just a thick, unwatered down dab of guacamole, and like a nice salsa de molcajete. That's like the perfect taco for me. And I know there's if you love al pastor, sure, Mexico City can claim that. But for me, for asada, for a fish taco, for mariscos,
Yeah.
it's
the cult. I mean, these are fighting words in Mexico.
I'll take it. I'll bring it.
These are like,
Bring it
hey,
on.
where are the best tacos and stuff like that. I traveled all over the country, I've had amazing food, dude. Seafood in Sinaloa.
seafood in Sinaloa
is holy shit. I mean, it's a dangerous place, but fuck it, it's worth it. You know. I remember having levantamuertos. I don't know what the fuck they called it. It's like a varied seafood cocktail based all around this almeja, this giant fucking oyster that they have out there, and the guy serving it as a knife that probably was about that big at some point, and now it's worn down to about that size. It doesn't have a pinky finger is gone. All of his table looks like it's made of driftwood, and all of his products are being run over to him by a bunch of kids without shoes, bringing them from the boats. That seafood experience was like pretty magical. And one thing I found out about that experience, and an experience I had with you, these mystical moments where we find ourselves in places consuming something so absurd. Absurd not because of what it is. I mean, I'm not talking about eating panda meat. I'm talking about everything that has to be in line and in place for that meal to be even fucking possible. You know, the guys working on those boats that went off at 3 a.m. to try and find this specific shellfish. The wife of the fisherman going off early into the morning in the market to find cilantro, limon, all of the ingredients around this. The guy in front of you who learned his trade from his dad, and he learned his trade from his dad, and he learned his trade from that dad, like all of this. And also having the economic resource as a customer there that is beyond the people that are local there. They can't afford this, this ridiculous cup of the ocean that you're about to consume, because it's an expensive thing. Having moments like that.
Intangible. Those intangible factors are what makes food such a mystical and unforgettable experience. I'm a big supporter, and I think that you should really care about what you eat. Ask questions about where your food comes from. Know the people who make it for you. Know their story. Say buenos dias. Say good morning.
We're not talking about reading the FDA's guidelines. No, we're not talking about.
I'm not talking about a 2,000 calorie diet that a government tells you to eat as like your standard diet. No, listen to your body. Be in tune with your body. Yeah. It's easy. It's hard to do that in a world where we have so much content, so much saturation of just stimulation. But just what is your body like? What do you want to eat that day? Eat whatever you want to eat, and do what you got to do to burn it off after, whether mentally or just go for a long walk. I don't know. I think diet is just die with the word T in the end. And
I think there's a part, and again, having the experience of being from Mexico and going to the U.S., there's a part in the American experience where food becomes a medication, and it's a weird one that I've seen, where a Twinkie is a hug, where Domino's pizza is Domino's pizza, and eating a tub of ice cream is a meme, but also a reality for some people as far as depression.
Yeah, it takes people back to a happy point in their life. But I know exactly what you're talking about.
But the medication aspect of it is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. This is a dangerous aspect to it. Some people go into that with alcohol, with drugs, whatever. I think with food though, specifically when we're talking about Tijuana street food, the fear of going out, or from people that have never been to Tijuana, there's no place like it on the planet. It's the most it's the busiest border crossing on the planet. You'll find people from all over the world here. You'll find poverty, like actual poverty. When I talk about poverty, I think a lot of Americans haven't experienced actual poverty. Like the U.S. as a whole hasn't really experienced poverty.
I agree with that 100%.
Like overweight homeless people with smartphones are not poverty. It's just not.
No, I agree.
But when you come to a place like this and you experience the poverty levels here, where somebody can murder you for something very minimal, it's scary, I guess. It's scary. Like, how do you overcome some of these fears of mortality when it relates to, hey, let's go on this taco crawl to Tijuana. You have somebody there in front of you like me. You're like, hey, I don't know. All I've heard from about Tijuana has been through The Simpsons and through the Traffic movie. Like, what are you going to tell me about safety? Like, what is your argument when somebody says it's too dangerous?
There's all these kind of like dumb kind of sayings, right? Like the more dangerous the hood, the better the taco. But I think deeper than that, the way I approach it is just I'm a very dark person. I just don't show it as much. And I contemplate my mortality a lot. And, you know, when I accepted the job to be like the taco scout for Netflix, for the Taco Chronicles, I found myself going to like remote places all by myself.
Yeah.
You know, I would go to like Morelia. I would go like, I mean, deep into like some of the places, and I, you know, would encounter some autodefensas and you know, I'm just a food guy. I'm just going there. You know, I try my best. You know, you told me the best a long time ago. You know, I never fucked anyone else's wife. I don't try to like, you know, expose people. I'm just searching for the best taco possible.
Yeah.
And my heart is pure. My stomach is hungry. And that is I just hope for the goddamn best with that.
Yeah.
And
That's usually everybody in all parts of life, right? You're just hoping for the best.
But, you know, I contemplate. I'm like, you know, if I were to get killed, fuck it. I'll die for fucking searching for tacos. Like I've thought about that. Like, you know, shameless plug for our taco safari in Tijuana, which we did, you know, with L.A. Taco. Which is how, you know, how you and I got to know each other at a deeper level. We shared tacos. And, you know, there was that one moment, right? I think there was like a bank robbery or something. Or remember, like the cop pulled up and we weren't rolling the cameras at then. And the memo was, damn it. And like yesterday morning, I was on my way to Popotla. I was on my way to Playas de Tijuana to meet a friend to take me to this place called Burritos Chachu. If you haven't been, it's probably some of the best burritos that I've had in Mexico. It's amazing. It's a truck. And on the way there, I was on an Uber. And it was, you know, Tijuana had lots of morning traffic, so the Uber was zipping all around town. And I happened to be driving by, seeing like, you know, the shooting. I didn't see it, but I saw the formation of like people that were coming out of their cars. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know they had like, undercovers here, but they weren't undercover cops. They were escoltas. They were they were bodyguards for a shooting that took place yesterday morning, for the bodyguard of the mayor. And I happened to be driving by as like, you know, unmarked cars like started to get out of their cars, take cover behind their cars. And I saw like, you know, reporters with cameras like 2 blocks away, kind of like getting closer, but also keeping their distance. And I saw probably like 15 or 16 cops. And the Uber driver just happened to be, he told me, he was like, hey, it's a really hot morning. Just FYI. Yeah. He kind of like warned me.
Yeah.
Because I guess they had...
It's baseline, and all these Uber drivers have a phone app, and they're all talking to each other.
Exactly. And he actually had like asked his, you know, he was like, oh yeah, ese cuate ahí, eres bien mitotero, él sabe lo que está pasando. He knew his number, sent him a WhatsApp voicemail. I was like, hey, aquí voy a pasar ahorita, ¿qué está pasando? He didn't respond in time, so he was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go. But I literally saw like the formation of coming, like getting out of their cars with fucking big ass AK-47s or something. And taking cover behind their car, and like I saw that was someone bloody on like in front of like a fucking, and I was like, you know what? If a stray bullet were to fucking shoot me or like kill me right now, I always reflect on like what's my life up until this point.
Yeah.
I'm pretty damn fucking happy with the life I've been living.
Yeah.
And like, yes, I have a lot more to give, but like I'm here, I'm under my own risk. I'm here fucking searching the best tacos, teaching a class.
The risk and reward.
The risk and reward. It's fucking worth it, man. As soon as you take that first bite of like glorious mesquite, smoky carne, thick guacamole. Sorry, I don't want to anglicize myself. Tortillas, toasty on the mesquite foot and salsa, and you just take that first bite, and then after you go have a nice craft beer, it's like it's all worth it, man. I'll be okay.
I remember you and I were talking about that aspect of it, risk, and how, you know, going to shady places and having somebody worrying for you at home and having a lot riding on you now because you're heading up this project. People there are looking to you for leadership. Going to a place where some of these things happen regularly. Feeling kind of unsafe in some of these places. But then you and me sitting down in somebody's front yard that has a tarp in front of it because they don't want to know what's going on in there. It's tacos. They're fucking making bomb-ass fucking tacos. We're talking about risk and reward and how Tijuana has gone up and down as far as it being a spicy city. And somebody pulls out a white truffle from their bag.
Not a knife, not a gun.
Not a knife, not a gun. You and me are sitting there, and somebody in your crew.
Shout out to Stefan. Stefan is a homie, and he was the White Truffle Connect who reverse smuggled the white truffle into Tijuana.
We were filming for this taco safari, and I took you to a place called Tacos La Güera, and people go to the research, find that place out. It's the chile relleno tacos, tripe tacos, and steak tacos are phenomenal. The tortillas are handmade there. It's an amazing place. It doesn't have social media. It doesn't have a sign. Dude, this is somebody's fucking front yard.
It's amazing.
Me and you are sitting there. You have gone through more places to train your palate than I have. This is your specialty. I'm in your realm in a way. And somebody pulls out a white truffle out of nowhere. I think he had just come back from a trip out there or something.
That's just Stefan, dude. No, when it's white truffle season, he just like shaves that shit on fucking mac and cheese.
And I look at you and like, we're like, should we do this? Should we shave this, I don't know, $600 white truffle?
Probably more. This was a beefy boy.
It's like $600-$800, somewhere along. So should we shave this on top of these tripe tacos? Because that's what we were eating, tripe, tripa.
Bien dorada.
And when I say tripa, I mean
Cow intestine.
yeah. That's exactly
Lower
what that
intestine,
is.
I believe, if you're being
Yeah,
specific.
You squeeze that fucker out first. You clean him
With vinegar, hopefully, because
Hopefully, they're in and of themselves, they are a religious experience to have.
yeah. But sometimes they're a little custardy in a not good way.
No. Sometimes they don't squeeze them out. You know.
I still eat it, but
Yeah, I don't give a shit. We're eating these tripe tacos with this white truffle, and in that moment, I remember talking about this aspect of, you know, I know I'm here to talk about safety and shit like that, but if we get shot right now, that is a pretty good way to go.
yeah, that's what I told you. See, it's like you know, in Tijuana, it's a little bit more of a in your face
Yeah.
to think about these things. In the U.S., it's the same shit. It's just more low key because you never know when there's gonna be a mass shooting.
Yeah.
You know, you can be at a concert. You can be at like a, you know,
horror and what provides fear is a perspective. Like I get Americans asking me about, so what's it like in like, I'm afraid of being drugged in Tulum if I go to a bar or something like that. Well, most of those druggings are usually happening amongst Americans because that's how that works usually. And so don't worry about the cartels in that aspect of it, right? Or hey, I don't like, aren't you afraid for your safety in my hometown? Yeah, nah, I'm fine. I know everybody here. I know what's out of the ordinary here, so not really. I just don't spend a lot of time here, but I try to keep safe. But whatever is there that I go there for is worth it to have that risk there. I don't know, there's this baseline in my mind. If I can find life experience that is worth it, you know, that risk aspect of it. And Mexico has some pretty scary things to it. The U.S. has school shootings. People going into a supermarket with an AK for no reason.
and live streaming it.
Yeah, these are horrible, horrific things. I always tell people you have two reactions. There's 4 types of people in the world: the people that will fight back, the people that will run, the people that will freeze, and the people that will faint. These are usually the 4 types of people that are in the world. I was one of the stupid ones that would run towards something or fight back. That's what caused a lot of my trauma. But it also made me risk that aspect of me. It made me risk. And I think a lot of the things that I'm like exposing as far as the good things in life, because my Instagram account is humorous. It's a personal blog. I talk about some sad shit. But a very specific thing that I like exposing is food. You know, this is my morning of food. And I'll take a picture of it. I'll try and tag where I got it. When I travel, I remember finding this soul food place in the middle of Chattanooga on the side of the road. I was the most Caucasian person in that whole city, probably. It was amazing. Amazing food. All the questions asked, all of the excitement. what should I order? What is this about? I have those experiences regularly, constantly. They make life bearable.
Mm-hmm.
They make it worth.
The ritual of eating is a primal urge to just give your body, sustenance and nutrition. And we're very lucky, extremely lucky, that a lot of us have the privilege of choosing what you want to eat.
Yeah.
And choosing what you don't want to eat.
Yeah. And using food as an expression or as a language.
It says a lot. It says a lot about you.
You took me to eat some albóndiga de marisco.
The camarón.
Albóndiga de camarón.
Shrimp meatballs for anyone out there.
Shrimp meatballs. And I'm from here, and I didn't know that place. But you took me there with an excitement and a joy. And I think the excitement and joy there was because you were going to show me something that I missed. It was like it was the equivalent of going to an Easter egg hunt and stopping and saying, "Hey, dude, I know you didn't find a lot of eggs. Look at that fucking egg right there. You pick it up." That aspect of it, I think, is pretty powerful. By the way, as far as your work, the work you do.
Thank you so much. That's been one of the ways that I win people over in their hometowns.
Yeah.
Because I recognize and I understand and I realize that I'm not from Tijuana. I'm an L.A. dude who comes here and has been coming here for 17 years, 16 years now, learning, eating, never stopping to learn about the tacos here. And to that moment when, yes, I was excited to show you, and that's a big risk, right? Because it could have sucked, and I probably wouldn't be here right now. But it didn't suck, and it was an amazing, nearly religious experience because that albóndiga de camarón is amazing. It's so tender. It's just made from pure shrimp and a little bit of bread to hold it together.
It was midday. For people from Tijuana that are listening, they'll know that mariscos are more of a breakfast food, depending on the type. So broths, albóndigas de camarón. Those are you can stretch them into a breakfast, maybe a lunch. And I found it it's for my my stomach's baseline, local baseline. It's exactly what it needed. It's pretty powerful to be able to communicate with that, and also to have the interesting urban survival skill of foresight, research, scouting, not believing the reviews.
Yeah, I don't even think this place had any reviews.
But basically going somewhere and actually risking. The risk is not only in the place, but also in what you order. Yeah. Like for somebody that's never gone to a taco place before, or a taco cart, it's first time in Tijuana. What are some of the things to know? What's the difference between al pastor and asada? Does the steak have to be complete, or can it be, red sauce, green sauce? What's the difference? What are some of these? These are the basic skill sets that you have to have before you get there.
I'm probably the wrong person to ask about that, man, because I'm so chill when it comes to telling people what they should look for, because food is probably the one last thing that we have as humans that we can control and eat ourselves and figure out how we want to eat it. But if you're looking for a place that won't disappoint, there are some telltale signs. I think the first one is that a crowd. There may be a crowd. Look for if there's
the effort.
Yeah, if there's people who are willing to wait in time of their busy day and lose money to wait in line.
Specifically locals.
Specifically locals. I mean, sometimes even Americans too. That's the number one thing. And then secondly, I would say if it's only one location or two locations max, or 3 locations, once you start to add volume and scale up to a taqueria, it's really hard to maintain the quality and the intangible properties of that certain food.
The intangible initial qualities of a cart that some people pull off.
Yeah, some people do. Yeah, no shit on that. Yeah,
but usually the ones that pull it off go 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's usually people that were basically growing up working at the original spot, because ingredients are very important for that initial experience at that first taco spot. And if it changes in any way, it's gone. Whoever was loyal and something changes, they're gone.
Yeah, no, again, nothing wrong with franchising and make your money. But if you want to keep that romanticness alive,
it's the romantic, the first kiss, the
romance,
the first experience,
the honeymoon period,
But it's not even that. I've been going to the same taco spot that was the first place I bought a taco for myself my whole life. Tacos El Poblano in La Mesa in Tijuana.
That's the best one still to this day. I agree.
They haven't changed in 40 years, more than 40 years now. And the only thing that changed was where they were. They just crossed the street, The meat is the same, the tortillas are the same, the guacamole is prepared exactly the same way. Everything's exactly the same. I think a lot of these businesses that lose that aspect of it when they scale up, I guess. But changing anything slightly in a place where people are accustomed to is probably a pretty good way to kind of fuck yourself up in these businesses.
Yeah, another thing, what we've been talking about, alluding to, is the specialty aspect of taquerias or of a place. If a place only has one thing on their menu, one carne, one thing, it's most likely probably going to be pretty damn good, especially in Tijuana or anywhere in Mexico. Sometimes even in this case of las albóndigas de camarón, that's like their damn name. Their name of the business is actually Las Originales Albóndigas de Camarón.
Yeah, that's in the fucking name.
It's in the fucking name.
Yeah.
So it's like if you are walking around, driving around, Ubering around, and you see a place that they're named for like tacos de tripa el güero or some shit, stop there. It's probably gonna be pretty good. And it's interesting because I want to bring up the concept of the fallacy of a double standard. It's a fallacy because we grow up with a lot of European, especially in the U.S., we grew up with a lot of like European, like we place value on things from Europe or things from or cuisines from Europe, right? Like we have no problem going to like an Italian restaurant and dropping like $100 if you're like on a date for essentially just like flour and water and cheese on a pasta. I mean, I love pasta. Don't get me wrong. I've been in Italy. I love pasta all day, but compare that to like where that same person bat an eye to dropping $100 on like tacos or like masa.
Yeah, like a birria, that was cooked on the ground for a whole fucking day.
Wagyu, you can get fancy with that shit too.
Yeah.
And I want to say that there is a taco for every occasion in life.
Yep.
Date night tacos, there's a place and time for them, and I support them. Don't just analyze yourself and where you place value. And if you're willing to only pay expensive, pay like a big bill for like French or Italian food or like burgers, but not for tacos. Tacos, you still want them to be like the same $1.25 that they've been since you were a fucking teenager. No, dude.
$1 por tres in Tijuana.
Yeah.
There's they're still there, I think. 3 for $1.
Yeah.
Risky, but whatever.
I mean, it fills you up. Sometimes you need them. I get it. But
there's a place for the. Yeah, I've been to Casa Plasencia. Used to have, I don't know if they still do, cheek tacos.
Oof.
Dude, this little fucking plate, 3 cheek tacos. And you'd think they were out of place.
They're incredible.
I mean, usually when you have places that are selling cabeza, beef-fed places, we found one on the side of the road in Guadalajara once. It was a Mexican that went to Texas to try and figure out the American dream, figured out it wasn't for him, and came back and brought back with him barbecue technology and smokers.
Whoa.
And combined that with cabeza.
That sounds incredible.
Dude, it was a religious experience. I'll post a picture of it, video of it, I guess. I have some video. But the first thing that always ran out, cachete.
Cachete.
I mean...
It's lengua first, and then cachete.
No.
Oh, no?
No. For me, it's cheek first, and then the lengua. And for him, in most places that I've been to, there's not a lot of cheek. So it goes by fast, and cheek will turn into lip and cheek. Usually cheek goes away.
I tell people labio is the new lengua.
Yeah.
Because lengua shot up in price.
Yeah.
It got so expensive. It became like a luxury ingredient. Whereas like the next cut over, which is beef lips, if you were to do a blind taste test and give someone a taco de lengua and a taco de labio, they probably would not be able to tell the difference. It's very similar in texture.
I'd say cheek, for my just growing up and just here in Mexico, cheek, lip, and tongue is the order. I don't know.
So what we're talking about is our tacos al vapor or tacos de cabeza.
It's basically a steamed beef head.
Yes.
And the ways they steam it vary. I mean,
it's just steamed. I mean, oh yeah, they barbecued it and they smoked it.
Smoked.
That's freaking
barbecue
cool.
smoker.
That's unique though.
That's a unique thing. But usually, if you go to a taco place and there's a big tarp over some like unknown thing there, and it kind of looks like a beef head, it's probably a giant cow head.
I think I describe tacos de cabeza as like the final boss of tacos. Once you arrive there, they're probably going to be one of your favorite tacos.
Yeah.
And if you tell me, if I meet you and you tell me, like, and I ask you, hey, like, what are your favorite tacos? And you say tacos de cabeza, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you can't start there. You can't start there with somebody. You can't start there with somebody.
And like, it's a perfect food. They're steamed, so there's no fat.
Yeah.
It's just literally just steamed beef cheek, steamed tortillas.
Yep.
And also just salsa verde.
Yep.
And that limon maybe, and a little agua fresca, but like,
all of it is great.
It's no fat. It's just collagen, maybe just natural bovine fat, but it's still like tallow or whatever. But it's just steamed beautiful beef with steamed tortillas, and that's the kind of taco that you can eat every day. And
but for some reason, it is far from the Western.
Oh yeah.
Palate. It's like, wait, look at that. But you can see its eyes. It makes it better.
Just chop it up. Just chop it up.
the eyes.
Well, whenever I'm in Mexico for a long time, I miss pho. Pho for me is a religious experience. I've cried over a bowl of pho. Caldo, and like just nice, caldos. I mean, tacos de cabeza are like, if you like beef in that deep way, like you love pho, tacos de cabeza, you will love tacos de cabeza. For the same kind of like, it satisfies the same kind of like, it's steamy. There's smokestacks. The taquero is just like chopping it up, and it's just, you can just dangerously eat like 9 of them like so easy because they just melt in your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other aspect of Mexico. Has such a varied. There's taco de canasta. There's all sorts of variations. Steamed tacos al vapor. Like you'll find them everywhere in the corners here. Basically, it's they make the tacos out of either meat, potato, or another just simple ingredients, and they'll drop some steaming water inside of the case where they have them. They'll wrap them and off they go.
Tacos de canasta. Those are there's tacos are so beautiful. They're a beautiful thing, and I'm glad that they're getting the respect they deserve finally.
Yeah. There was a time when I was growing up where it was like, ¿me vas a llevar los tacos?
Yeah.
Like girls growing up, you're gonna take me to tacos? Locals. You know, take me to this restaurant. Take me to eat Italian or something like that. Alitas. Yeah, take me. Llámame Fridays. Take me to Fridays.
See, again, going back to the quote, so far from God, but so close to the U.S. Because the American kind of luxury, like mediocre-ass American luxury, arrives to Mexico, and it's a new thing here, and they're like, oh, yeah, I have money. I want to go eat it.
Dude, Carl's Jr., holy shit.
But it's so bad.
It is.
But it's just like status, right? Status and American convenience that you work your way up to if you make pesos and you're like, I can afford this.
Yeah.
I can take my girl there.
Yeah. But it's interesting how it's come full circle, and it's tacos are becoming this the staple food again, and not again. There's room for different expensive ass tacos. You know, there's the classic street taco. There's seafood tacos. You can go to Ensenada and get some shrimp and fish tacos that are like fire at a very specific cart.
Which one?
Talk about that later. I don't want to give my spaces anymore. We'll talk about that. We'll save that for like a safari, I guess.
Okay.
But it's there's places that are very specific for very specific things, and I think all of them culturally now. Which is funny, sad in a way, but also, I mean, if that's what it took. Seeing our food on Netflix from the perspective of somebody that is outside of it, in a way, and basically having somebody not from here tell us how beautiful and good it is.
I'm just glad that it was a Mexican director did that, and I had the privilege of doing that, and not like a a white person to kind of do like the white savior.
I appreciate that aspect of it. It's beautiful, but it was still a product presented to us from far away.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
which is I don't know. It's we're not good at loving ourselves in Mexico, I guess, and seeing some of the love, culture, and interest shown from external sources makes us kind of look back at it in a different way, I guess.
And it's so sad because, you know, yes, it's so hard to love ourselves here in Mexico as Mexicans, but some of the biggest economies in Mexico are, you know, tourists that come here and love themselves a lot.
Yeah.
They'll come here, they'll get plastic surgery, they'll get massages, because they can't afford that stuff back home. So they'll come here and they, you know, the term self-care, right?
Yeah.
And they like...
Again, foreign alien terms to me. Self-care.
Self-abuse.
Self-abuse. What do you mean? Day drinking? Is that self-abuse? I don't know what that is. The work you do, it's pretty interesting. I don't think people can appreciate that aspect of you having to basically go out somewhere, risk, and then try and paint a picture through text and video to somebody of what that experience is like. Mm-hmm. You know, I saw you attempting some of it as you were filming the short series we did, and I appreciated the fuck out of it because I can't fucking do that shit. But the ability to bring somebody with you when they're not there, and to implant the idea in somebody's mind, hey, maybe I will go to TJ tomorrow and I'll figure out this weird fucking backyard taco place.
If I get one person to do that, which I've had people reach out and they have come here and they thank me, like that's mission accomplished.
Yeah,
mission accomplished. That's, you know, the only way that you're gonna win people over is by showing them that they can do it too, and to humanize Tijuana, humanize all these taqueros and taqueras that put in so much backbreaking work every single day.
3 a.m,
take no vacations,
at least.
Love working. They provide joy on tortillas. They make your morning. They make your day.
And the memories that they make. Yeah. That's like you talk about people willing to drop $100 on a plate in an Italian restaurant or more. And you never hear about those stories when you're getting drunk and laughing somewhere or smoking weed with your friends about this fun time at this Italian restaurant. But you usually hear the stories of this taco place where the cops showed up or where this, I don't know, some weird shit happened. There was a bunch of street dogs outside and you wanted to steal one in Baja to bring it with you back to the U.S. Whatever it is, I always find it fascinating that the quality of the food doesn't necessarily relate to the quality of the memory that will produce for people. Yeah, it's actually the opposite. You know, most of the amazing memories are related to food or around food, or usually in some of these places, backyards, street corners, soul food places in the middle of Chattanooga. You know, and these are the spots.
And and talking about like, you know, the people around these places, like. One aspect that I love about, you know, we call it at the publication that I'm the editor for, we call it the taco life. The taco life. And one of the qualities that I love best about the taco life is that, like, if a friend shows you a new taqueria, a new taco stand, a new puesto, a new restaurant that does tacos, that place is always going to remind you of that person.
Yeah, it's attached.
It's attached to that person. So even though like it has like that place is named something else, like, you know, your producer here who took you to the pizza spot earlier today, no matter what happens in your life, you guys may have a fallout and fucking hate each other. Yeah. But every single time you go back, you're gonna think of him.
Yeah. It's always, whenever I go to a place like that and it's like Avi showed me this place, I'm always like, fuck. I've always crossed here. I never came here and fucking Avi had to show me this.
Yeah.
place.
And I'm sure same thing with, you know, this fucking Pocho kid from East LA that took you to that one thing's like a Camarón spot, you know?
I always appreciate people showing me places like that. Like, to me, every time I travel, and I'm in a different state every week usually.
Damn.
So I was in Dallas a few weeks back. I'm about to go to New York, and I'm always going to places. And always get bombarded with, you should try these tacos. You should try those tacos. You should go here. You should go there.
There's so many bad ones, bro.
Look, I mean, I don't know. I'm scared. I'm afraid. Legit, man. I've experienced Tex-Mex, and it's scary. I'm afraid. For somebody, and we're gonna go into lists. If somebody
Content
listening to this right now, who say, you know what, I'm gonna try and figure this taco thing out. I have not encountered anywhere in the United States like Los Angeles. Maybe certain parts of all in California. But I've never encountered a place like L.A. that has so many of my fellow Mexicans living in it. Not only living in it, but also creating these culinary portals back to their places of origin. Where I remember somebody took me to a place in Compton, and it was a taco spot. And I was like, you got to try these tacos. The poblano. These are like Tijuana style. Like, bull fucking shit. I got there. The dude that owns it, he's on Instagram at Taquerillo. Instagram. Like I said, fucker, I know you. You used to work at these tacos in Por Via Rápida. It's like, yeah. Holy shit. You were like, give me some of them. Let me try. Fucking yeah. Fucking A. Great fucking tacos. LA is a weird place. It's a place where the ingredient aspect of it is also there. It's near a bunch of bread baskets. It's near a bunch of ports of entry. Ingredients are there. It's a place where, yes, there are, issues, Skid Row, homeless people running around everywhere. But that's also a sign of a permissive culture and society. And yes, bad things come with it, but also experiments come with it. Freedom of having people selling fruit on the side of the road, corner, comes with it as well. There's a few positives that come with it. For somebody looking to go to LA, like, what would your recommendations be as a place to go to experience things right now? And how it changes constantly because we change and the world changes. But if you had a list that you could share with us right now, what would that be?
So the first question that I ask back when people ask me, what's your favorite taco in LA or where would you go? I always ask them, first of all, is it daytime or nighttime?
Yeah.
That's
a beautiful clarification.
Yeah.
Because breakfast tacos and fucking lunch dinner is a completely different thing. So beautiful.
If you're there visiting or if you live there, you probably know about it, but it's if you only had one kind of destination to hit, I would go to Mariscos Jalisco. On the original location, it's a truck on Olympic Boulevard. They are a breakfast and lunch taco. I think they open at 9 and they open till 5. The reason why I would go there because I think that is a perfect taco that shows so much about what the taco is. And as soon as you take that first bite, it's not just history and it's just like if you like shrimp, it's a taco dorado de camarón, estilo San Juan de los Lagos, in the highlands of Jalisco. The owner is Raul, but he's been named best taco in LA for like many years because I think it summarizes the LA Mexican experience so well. Here's an immigrant from the highlands of Jalisco that came to LA, opened up this taco truck, and it has a fried shrimp taco. So if you like taquitos, if you like flautas, this is, or like a taco de papa, like a fried crispy potato taco. This is kind of like that, but it has like chopped up shrimp and a super secret mix of vegetables and things that he will not tell anyone. I've known him for a long time. And it's a super secret mishmash. And it has a refreshing salsa of like, kind of like a cool watery tomato with like chopped up cabbage and a buttery slice of avocado. It's affordable as hell. It's refreshing, but also indulgent because it kind of satisfies both ceviche and a taco kind of craving.
Yeah, because of the starchiness.
It doesn't taste. It's fried, but it doesn't taste fried because it has so much of this, so many fresh components to it. And it's a good example of how like a taco tastes better in LA than it does in Mexico.
Yeah,
that taco like you said, if you can't see the ocean, run for the hills in terms of seafood. San Juan de los Lagos is inland as hell.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. There's seas of blue agave, but there's not seas of ocean. There's not ocean. So that taco, because LA, you're much closer to the water. Yeah, that's a delicious taco. And also, if you're there, you can walk to Tacos y Birria La Única, which is the truck next door for like Puebla style birria de chivo. There's also Burritos La Palma, which is across the street. So you can do like you can arm yourself a good little progressive walking taco crawl if you stop at this truck. Now, if you're like a little bit higher level and you're down for your shit, I will go, like you said, to go to Compton. If there's one taco there that I think is really magical. Going back to our conversation about tacos al vapor, they have an asada, but it's like grilled first and then they steam it. Okay. So you get like that smokiness, but you get like that butteriness from like just like steamed beef.
It's almost like a guisado.
It's not guisado. It's like mesquite grilled chopped like.
Do they put it in a pot after they chop? They grill it, they chop it, and then they put it in a pot.
They kind of like squeeze it and then they steam it.
Yeah.
So it's like almost like it's like weird. It's really unique, and I haven't seen that style anywhere else. That's an LA thing. So if I'm gonna tell you to go to LA and have these tacos, I'm telling you this list because they're tacos
they're unique there.
They're unique to LA. You know, you can come to Mexico and have like much better tacos, and you know, in terms of their respective regions.
But the experience.
But LA tacos, LA tacos. You know,
it's the guy from Tijuana. The ocean is not anywhere. It's basically Tony Stark building his armor in a cave versus building it next to fucking, I don't know, somewhere in Silicon Valley. Having the ingredients nearby, having, I don't know. Again, a lot of these places, a very key component of these spots is where they are, because that allows them to get ingredients, that allows them to just do their thing. So
that place is called El Cacheton.
El Cacheton.
It's in Compton. It's a truck, and they're Nayarit style.
Nayarit style.
It's a really unique.
Tacos El Cacheton.
El Cacheton. They're amazing, and they have an amazing habanero salsa that, if you like heat, it's beautiful. So, and last but not least, I would argue that the best overall, like if I had to choose just one taqueria in LA, if you only had time for one taqueria in LA, Sonora Town. Sonora Town in downtown. Now she has a location in West Adams, in Mid-City. That's amazing. But that's a story of, if you know, yes, Tijuana has amazing tacos. If there was like a close second, I would definitely say it's like Hermosillo or like Sonora, anywhere else.
Sonora, it's the, for me it's for me in Hermosillo.
San Luis, Rio Colorado también.
San Luis, Rio Colorado. It's a meat there.
It's beautiful. It's great meat.
It's the best. It's the best meat in
Mexican people in Sonora, they don't just go to the carniceria and buy whatever meat. They're literally loyal to like their farms. Yeah. They have like specific farms, and they call them meat boutiques, and you go there and people are not afraid of spending money on good carne, which is a beautiful thing, because it's
even their jerky, their Mexican cecina.
Yeah.
Like I used to be paid with breaks of cecina, like from a friend of mine would like, hey, are you going to the U.S.? Yeah. Bring me back some vans. Oh, cool. And bring me back some fucking cecina, some coyotas, and some
Sonora.
Some bacanora.
Yeah. So Sonora Town makes their own handmade flour tortillas. They make them with lard, and she really prides herself. Her name is Jen Feltham, and her partner is Del Diaz, and he's from San Luis, Rio Colorado. So that's like the story of a San Luis, Rio Colorado style taqueria that opened up in LA, and they do rib costilla. Tacos de costilla, which is, no, you say but it's hard to find in LA. It's hard to find in the US.
I've never seen a place offer tacos de costilla.
Tacos de costilla, for you, if you don't know, it's essentially it's a better version of the carne asada. It's closer to the bone. It's much more flavorful, and
it's the bone is there, so the bone will give all of its fucking flavor.
It's amazing. So I would say those three. And if you want mariscos, because a lot of people don't know, but LA also has a capital of marisco culture. Just as much as there are good tacos, there are as much good mariscos there. Yeah. There's a guy in the backyard that
I like how it all comes down to a guy in his front yard or his backyard.
He's a badass motherfucker from Sinaloa who,
of course,
he's just like you can tell like he's been through some shit to get to where he's at right now. But the way he handles a knife and just like butterfly shrimp, and He has a chicharrón de pescado. He has like a...
If you don't, that's another thing that I don't see a lot. I don't see a lot out there. Chicharrón de pescado.
Yeah.
It's basically fish skin pork rinds.
Yeah, it's fish treated like pork rinds. So
Yeah.
it's just like hard fried like fish that is just deep.
This is very common in certain bars in Mexico. Like there was a very infamous watering hole in Tijuana that we would go to that didn't have a sign. And their main thing that would bring out for us was cucarachas, which is not dried.
Yeah.
It's actually fried shrimp with
hard fried shrimp, yeah.
Yeah.
Shell on.
and some weird something on there, and chicharrón de pescado, and our fucking caguamas.
That's
It's all Sinaloa, and then they would end it up with a aguachile.
a perfect meal. That's a perfect meal. Like I don't care who you are.
But it's a Sinaloa thing though. It's interesting that of course, like when you said Sinaloa, when the guys from Sinaloa, that's their thing.
Yeah.
That's their mariscos, seafood. That's their
But
thing.
they're such gangsters about it. Like they don't even like they're not they will drop money on their own food, which I love.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to find.
It's a gangster thing to go and celebrate at a marisqueria place
Yeah.
in Mexico. Like Tijuana has a few very infamous ones. El Negro Durazo, which is named after one of the most corrupt cops in Mexican history. It's a seafood place, but it's the tradition there. It was música de banda, like a Sinaloa thing, and Sinaloa style seafood. And you'll go there and drop money more than some of the fucking 5-star restaurants here in Tijuana.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is no joke. The amount of money people drop in some of these places, and the way they express status through.
The more callos de hacha you can afford, the better you're doing in life.
Yeah.
And callos de hacha being pencho clams, they're scallop-like seafood. It's a scallop-like seafood that is very coveted.
Expensive.
Very expensive. There's an underground network, DIY importing to L.A. and it's. I'm sure you saw that headline 2 weeks ago. I think it's such a coveted thing. Also in if you live in like Sonoran, kind of like by a coast that has, because that has cayocha, you have to essentially free dive. And I don't know if you saw the headline of a diver that got like his head like instantly decapitated because he was out diving for these pencho clams. Callos de hacha, and a shark just came and fucking ate him.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck. So if you're having ceviche, always remember that there's a diver out there that fucking is risking his life to fucking get you your fucking $60 per kilo, callos de hacha. It's probably even more, to be honest, now.
Yeah.
It's probably like it's probably like $120. If you're at a restaurant and if you get like a botana de callo de hacha.
That's another aspect of shit here in Mexico. Abi had a little bit more. He's older than I am. Abi, did you get to experience kawama?
Yeah.
Like, so sea turtle.
Oh yeah.
Sea turtle being sold like the place we went to.
Yeah.
Sea turtle being sold in the broth on the street, like on a street side, like in the 90s in Tijuana, and they had the turtle shells as decorations for this.
What does it taste like? I haven't tried turtle.
There is a reason why they almost hunted those things to extinction. They are fucking delicious.
But like, what would you compare it to?
It is a very fatty. Oh God, I don't.
Is it like seafood? Does it have
what
like
is it, what does it taste
I
like?
don't know how to describe it.
Does it have that seafood like funk?
It does have a little bit of that, but it's fatty though. It's fat. It's like a fatty meat to it.
So is that why, for example, I will shout out El Cajua del Yello. I know that they have aleta de atún in the broth.
Yeah.
Which is also very fatty.
It's a fat surrounded with a cartilage.
I wonder if that was meant to replicate the kind of texture of that.
So here, they used to have carts with the kawama, sea turtle, and then they turn into kawamanta, which is manta ray fins being put into the broth.
Manta ray is good too.
Manta is good,
but
it's not the same.
It's not the same, yeah.
But the whole, that's the shady, illegal aspect of Mexican, specifically Tijuana cuisine, because there's still places here where there's like backroom shit. We're like, hey, you want some of this expensive broth, still having abalone, canned abalone,
Oh yeah.
trafficked basically, or uses currency in certain parts of Baja.
I mean, a can of abalone right now is what, like $50 for a canned abalone if you get lucky.
Well, like a stack of like 5 of these cans like this. I remember, like on the side of the road.
That's why one of my favorite tacos in Tijuana is actually it's kind of an extinct taco, but I know one place that still has it is the chorizo de abulón.
Yeah.
Chorizo de abulón. Chorizo, most people in the U.S. Know it as like only being made from pork or beef or soy now, I guess.
Yeah, the soy chorizo.
Soy chorizo, which is not that bad. It's cool. But in Tijuana, the story that was told to me was that before refrigeration, as a way to preserve abalone, you would just make it into a chorizo because you just add a bunch of vinegar and chiles and you preserve it that way. That was before abalone became like a extremely luxury, coveted, like Chinese opulence food.
Yeah.
So there's this place, La Querencia. It's an old school fancy place, still affordable.
It's affordable, beautiful.
Affordable.
It's a great place to go and eat with family or a date.
Yeah, that chef also he trademarked, or like I think he was one of the earliest pioneers of using the word Baja Mediterranean food.
Baja Med.
So that restaurant, that's probably one of my, like if I had to choose like my top restaurants in Tijuana, that's definitely
that's a pretty
classic. It's been there.
That's a classic, a beautiful choice.
But chorizo, and along Baja Sur and Baja, I've had seasonal chorizo, because again, you're by the ocean, and you could only eat like snail and fish so much in ceviche form or in raw form or fillet form, so you get creative and you just create chorizos out of them.
Yeah.
But like people don't know that. People in the U.S. think that it's just but that's like the beauty of Baja. It's so underrated. Unless you know. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. What about a list for people coming to Tijuana? I've already given you mine, and if people want to go on YouTube, L.A. Taco did this series called the Taco Chronicles, and I basically took them around some of the local spots. All of the spots we hit up were local, except one of them. That you were the one that took me to that spot, which is fucking fire. But all the ones that I took people to were ones that I recommend, ones that have I've been going to for years, that they've taken places, they've taken people to that I love, that have taken people that I had to have horrible conversations with. These are places. All these places have like a history with me. What's your list? People coming to Tijuana, parking their car before they cross, and walking down. What's your list?
So I actually do this. I used to bring people to Tijuana, like kind of high profile people, to Tijuana to just show them the power of Tijuana. I really love the city, and I'm always gonna champion it. And so I've come up with a short list of places that you can take people who may be scared of Tijuana or may not believe that Tijuana is a food juggernaut in Mexico's food scene. So I have like a short list of places that will change someone's mind about Tijuana. So it's the first one is like that place that we talked about earlier. It's called Las Originales Albóndigas de Camarón.
Yeah.
It's that albóndiga has so much finesse. Like if you're being like a chef or someone, and they're gonna be like, whoa, like this is like so tender and so like it's almost again thinking about like context and double standards. In French culture, in French cuisine, there's a quenelle, which is essentially a seafood dumpling, a fish dumpling. And this is like a fucking Mexican quenelle. But because it's called like an albóndiga, people don't like appreciate that. But this thing is, you eat it and you're like, this is special. So that place is special. La Querencia, which we talked about earlier, that's a nice. If you only come for like with your family or with your wife or partner, and you only come to one restaurant, I want to go to La Querencia.
Look, it's a world fucking class culinary experience. The ingredients, the place, everything is top quality. I like that's a place where I celebrate.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and it's also their chicharrón de pulpo made with Baja olive oil, and it's like flambé tableside.
Everything's from a few hours away.
Yeah, and like just know that like if you were eating this food in Mexico City, you would probably be spending twice or 3 times as much.
Probably 3 times
easily.
Easily.
Again, but we don't realize these things because you grew up, you normalize.
Yeah,
how cool this is.
Yeah, this is I had this experience of explaining to somebody from Maine what Baja lobster was.
Oh yeah, no claws here.
You know, but what about did you steam them? Like no.
No, they're fried in lard. What?
Yeah, it's a normalcy thing. You know, we don't appreciate shit because it's our baseline until we experience it through others, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is another beautiful aspect of food that you can share it with others.
Um,
Which is also another weird aspect of humans.
Yeah.
We're among the only fucking living beings on the planet that'll feed each other and share food. That's not a common thing, actually.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. We have evolved in that way. Tacos Fitos.
Fitos tacos.
I'm thinking I'm just this list is like entry level for people to just give Tijuana a shot. And like if you're happy to get lucky when a taquero's there who's like kind of slinging the salsa and kind of like he's so freaking fast.
Yeah.
He's like hype. It's like if you press fast forward on someone on a video. He's tacos Fitos, and also get the campechano, like the mixto one. It's like get a little bit of half tripa dorada and also half beef. That tripa dorada it's a good entry point to the joys of tripa.
Dude, that's a master level shit. No, campechano.
Yeah.
Yeah, campechano basically means mixed.
Yeah.
Campechaneando.
And then after that, you can kind of roam around the Mercado Hidalgo next door. Buy something nice for your people that back home. You can bring them a bag of cheese, some tostadas, some candies, some honey, whatever. So that's a good destination. I also will recommend Caesar's Hotel because one of my favorite things is just telling people that Caesar salad is Mexican food.
It is, for me, it's like double that because it's from my hometown, right?
Yeah.
I
can imagine.
It's like a stupid thing. Did you know that the Caesar salad was invented in my hometown of Tijuana? No way. Yeah, look it up. There's always this mind-blowing conversation.
Also,
but it's a physical hotel and restaurant right on Revolucion that you can go to.
Yeah.
And they'll make you a fucking Caesar salad.
And it's excellent.
It is. They'll make it right there for
Dressing
you.
from scratch.
It's amazing. It's the only place where I've gone specifically to have a salad, which is kind of funny to say.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing, and it's also that restaurant has been masterfully redesigned. Like it's been preserved by Javier Plasencia, my tocayo, who he's a homie of mine, and he actually just did a class, he did a lecture for me from my students. And did you know that actually Cesar Cardini, the reason why he left the romaine whole was because he liked to eat with his hands. So a Caesar salad is meant to be eaten with your hands.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So this place is a good. I'm lucky. Again, I married someone from Mexico, and I've known that cartel culture is somewhat recent in Mexican history.
It is a phenomenon that has been going on going on in a strong way probably since the late 70s.
Yeah.
And in a big way since the 90s.
But before that, people don't understand that Tijuana was like Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It was, during Prohibition, when you couldn't drink alcohol in the U.S., people would just mosey on over.
This is Vegas.
And fucking have margaritas and fucking have the times of their life. And
Al Capone owned bars here.
And so Caesar's Hotel and restaurant is literally a portal into that time zone, into that age and that time span. Everything from the Art Deco to the brass, like the wrought iron. It's been beautifully restored by Plasencia and his team, and his servers are making a Caesar salad for 30 fucking years of your life. Imagine he was telling me that they go through 500 Caesar salads a day on weekends.
Yeah.
And someone who's made something,
and everything's prepared right there.
Yeah, it's fresh.
Yeah. Also,
they have really good sopes de tuétano, bone marrow sopes.
Bone.
So you can go there, get a nice bottle of wine, have yourself your fancy Caesar salad and your sope, and just feel really fancy in Tijuana. And, and there's a beautiful mural.
On Revolucion.
There's a beautiful mural. Look for it next time you're there. I don't know who the artist is, but it's a beautiful mural. It's probably the size of the whole wall. And it's just like it's an ode to like the flapper era of Tijuana, where there was all these like women and just men that would come and like have a genuine good time, and it was like the glory days of Tijuana. I would say, it was like now Revolucion is a shell of that.
Yeah.
But it's coming back slowly.
It's coming back as a local space.
Yeah, which is a beautiful thing.
Which is a beautiful. It's a beautiful. And when I say local space, I think Revolucion is a pretty good sign that eventually that fucking border wall won't mean anything anymore. When I say locals, I mean Americans that are living in Tijuana and Tijuanans that are living in Tijuana, and there's no difference really there. We're on the same level, which I think is a pretty interesting sign of things to come.
And so he also has a cevicheria called Cevicheria Erizo, Plasencia, in La Cacho. Again, this list is meant to like break people out of their expectations of Tijuana. Yeah. That they just think that Tijuana is some kind of just poor border city where humans end up at like a black hole of humanity. That people just it is that too.
It is that for some people.
Yes.
Tijuana is a lot of things for a lot of people.
Yeah.
For me, it's a hometown. It is a place that I fought and bled for. It is the home of the best tacos on the planet. It is a place of adventure. It is a place where you can go down the street and meet some people from Haiti, and then you go further down the street and you meet some people from Greece that have been living here their whole lives.
We're gonna publish a story. There's a mosque in Playa de Tijuana, and there's a Egyptian birriero there who makes birria out of like halal lamb. And it's delicious.
Yeah, that's I have to experience that.
It's amazing, and So, anyways, again, Tijuana is a complex place, but we also talked about tacos el poblano en la mesa, which take an Uber, drive a little farther, it's worth it.
It is.
Frank is cool, but
the tacos el poblano is like that's when I think about Tijuana street tacos. That is like that's a baseline.
And it's an instant hit. It's an instant hit. You can take anyone who eats meat, and they're gonna be blown away.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it hasn't changed in flavor in like 40 years.
Yeah.
They're open from 8 a.m. to like midnight or 2 a.m. or something.
4 a.m. sometimes.
They have like 3 shifts of taqueros just making goddamn carne asada for
every
single day.
Every now and then, people will go there. They'll see a guy with a bunch of tattoos on his arm. That he's the head. He's like the head guy there.
Oh yeah.
Always tip.
Good to know.
You always tip, and you might get a plate of really burnt meat, lemon, and cucumbers as an extra if you tip well. These are the local secrets.
Yeah. I have no idea that they had lemon and cucumbers there. Wow.
They do. They'll give you a little plate on the side. Tip well. They'll give you a little plate on the side with your tacos, with cucumbers, some chiles toreados, burnt chiles.
They have chiles toreados there?
I think so. Yeah.
Damn.
And just long slivers of meat that have been spent a little more time on the grill.
Oh, man, it's the best.
This is like to close out the experience.
And I want everyone to follow this chef homie of mine who he's been a big integral reason, and I think you'll meet him soon. His Instagram handle is Jose Tijuanex, so instead of Tijuana, it's with the X in the end. And he's about to open up, I think, he's kind of carrying the torch that Plasencia and Miguel Angel Guerrero from La Carencia started. He's like the new generation of Tijuana chefs that are doing really cool shit. He's bringing he made direct deals with corn farmers in Tlaxcala, and is bringing like really good masa and tortillas to Tijuana. His restaurant is about to open, and he's been doing a little breakfast here and there. It's called La Carmelita.
La Carmelita.
La Carmelita.
Where's that at?
If you Google it, it'll come up. Okay. And he's also about to author, or he was a scout for a taco book that is going to be dropped soon called Ya Domingo Tijuana, working with some people from Monterrey and Mexico City. And he's been a big reason why I've been able to come back to Tijuana and learn about all these spots. He's like he's an ally, and I'm really grateful to, because again, I'm not from Tijuana, and I come here and I learn every single time, and he's been a big reason for that. So follow him. His name's Jose Tijuanex. He knows the latest and greatest best tacos. He's the one that took me to Burritos Chachu in Playa de Tijuana.
Yeah.
Burritos Chachu had everything from like machaca to like portobello mushroom and queso fresco. to like beefsteak, but it's like beautiful, thin, like flour tortillas that are kind of grilled, and you know, they're the Mexico size. They're like
that's funny.
the 4 biters.
That's funny you say the Mexico size. Burritos in Tijuana, specifically Tijuana, I'll talk about Tijuana, are not that. We don't think about a burrito as a California child
Chipotle burrito.
Yeah,
Beast.
It's a thin burrito. It's about that big, 4 or 5 bites. It's small. It's like an emergency ration food. You'll find them in street corners in a little cooler being sold with champurrado or coffee.
The sweaty deliciousness. But it's like burritos in Tijuana is kind of like a sandwich that you pack in your backpack.
Yeah, that's a good explanation of it.
And it's just there's something magical that happens. You know, you can eat the sandwich right when you make it, but if your back sweat kind of warms it up a little bit. It kind of gets a little squishy. And
we would always buy them in a place. It's nearby, near El Toreo, where the bullfighting ring was.
Oh yeah.
They sell them with aluminum foil. So if you want to heat them up, you just put them in the front windshield for a bit, you know, to heat them up. But every day they would have a different variety, and I always remember Thursdays were pollo and mole burritos with rice.
Sounds amazing.
Fuck, those were great. But
Simple
you would have to get there at 5 a.m.
Tijuana's about I feel like the Tijuana taco scene is about simplicity and just like doing like
consistency and simplicity.
And like again, you know, think about like why we love pasta. Oh, like people love Italian food is so simple. It's just tomato sauce and pasta. Is then like, you know, and cheese, and that's so delicious. Well, same thing with the taco de asada. It's just it's just carne asada, tortillas, and salsa.
It has to be a well-made tortilla.
Yeah.
If the tortilla sucks,
yeah,
it's not good. The meat has to be great.
By the way, all these places that I'm name dropping, they're all like, you know, from Tijuanenses. They're not like extranjero places. They're not like people. They're not opened by people that are not from here. These are all places opened up by Tijuanenses that have lived here, and that have put in work in their communities to kind of like make it to what it is today.
Yeah, that's another aspect of taquerias and some of these businesses that form up around them. I mean, a taco spot here in Tijuana is not only supporting the owner, work opportunities for some of these people that basically become entrepreneurs themselves later on. Because a lot of the people that have taqueria started off working at somebody else's taqueria. So it's a university.
And once you're done eating, you know, I love again, going back to the European, you know, in Europe, we have like digestives and aperitivos, you know, for liquors. And like in Mexico, we have el desempance, you know, like after a good taco, you go get a good shot of something, and or a cocktail, and or a caguama, and just like, you know, you chill out a little bit. That settles your stomach. There's a bar here opened up by a Tijuanense, one of my favorite Tijuanenses. His name's the bar's name is called Aruba Day Drink Bar. Yeah. And the guy is his name is Kevin, and he recently just won in top 50. So there's an organization called Top 50 or World's Best 50, and they have like a World's Best 50 bars in all of North America, and all of North America. So from Canada to US to all of Latin America. And Aruba Day Drink was rated number 40. That's a big fucking deal. That's put some damn respect on Tijuana. Like this dude, again, but he kind of innovated this concept of being like day drinking. It's like a day drink bar, mixology. But it's not pretentious. It's fucking cool. You go there and they're not going to fucking, you know, put on a show for you to make your cocktail. It's going to be affordable, and it's going to be a delicious, whatever you like to drink, whether it's mezcal, gin, you know, vermouth, whatever. It's an amazing bar. And then last but not least, actually two more. Farland Ale Works just opened up. If you drink beer, Tijuana has the best craft beer in all of Mexico because of its proximity to San Diego.
We started here first.
Yes.
We started here first. Tijuana had a brewery that came out of that basically came out of the California.
Which one?
Craft brewery. Tijuana Brewery.
Oh,
Tijuana Beer Brewery.
That's the first time.
Yeah.
All these.
It's the first
There's
one.
There's so many.
It's the first one that we've ever, like me and Avi would go there.
What year?
What year was this when we would go there, Avi?
Beginning 2000?
Yeah, the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Early 2000s. That's the first time we tried it. Like that was the first craft beer in Tijuana.
Jamuri too. The Lágrimas de Ángel, the stout. One of the. Anyways, but Farland Ale Works is one of those places that like you bring someone from the U.S. or you bring someone, and they're gonna be like, holy shit, this is real nice.
Yeah.
It's like everything is like super state of the art. The brewery equipment is like nicer than like breweries that you find in like Portland, Oregon, or like San Diego. It's extremely clean and extremely delicious, and the theme is like sci-fi, and the food is actually pretty good too.
Yeah.
My friend who does the tortillas, the nixtamal, actually sells tortillas too for their fish tacos and their tacos, and so it's a place people gringos love fish tacos and beer. I feel like they're always looking for that, and this new
It's like a Baja memory.
Exactly, and this new brewery does an excellent version of both. You know, whether you like IPAs, hazies, or lagers, and I think a lot of us grew out of beer, but this actually does beer that is worth drinking. And then we cannot forget El Dandy del Sur.
El Dandy del Sur is iconic.
It's iconic. Yeah.
It is. I can't call it a dive bar because that's not what it is.
Americans will call it that.
Americans might call it a dive bar because that's not what it is. It's a humbling bar. It's a place where we talk about everybody being the same. You know, it's off of
Revolucion.
It's off of Revolucion, but it's been there forever. I remember going past that place and seeing wheelbarrows and shovels outside from some of the patrons that would leave them outside.
Wow.
And then mixing with the reporters and some of the cops. It was a good punk rock scene there.
Yeah.
Sheep beer. It's always been a place in Tijuana.
And it's a kind of bar that you go there for like a Boilermaker. You get your shot and a beer.
Yeah.
And your carne seca. If you haven't their carne seca botana, I think they microwave it a little bit. It's a little warm, and it's in a pool of like limon y chile y sal.
They put it in a microwave on a fucking plate to make it, malleable, edible, I guess. It's a pretty good glimpse into what Tijuana is. It is people coming from work, people talking about what's going on. It is a bar that has been there forever, basically. I've met a bunch of celebrities there. It's like a place where people just appear.
Yeah,
Macaulay Culkin.
It's dark. You met Macaulay Culkin there?
I met Macaulay Culkin, which is a weird one.
It's dark in there. It's dark in there, and you can hide in a corner somewhere.
You can hide in a corner. Like, I don't drink anymore, but I still go there with some of my friends that still drink. And I'll always have a Shirley Temple in that corner, and you don't need to drink in that place. Yeah. It's a pretty interesting spot. If you want to go back in time, that's a pretty good, interesting spot.
And then, we also need to acknowledge Tijuana's power in coffee. The coffee scene, there's amazing coffee shops here that will rival some of the best in New York or like Seattle or something, and no one knows that because it's not something that, if you're not local, it's not something you're looking for as a traveler. There's three that I recommend. There's a brand new one that just opened up a month ago called Comunal.
Okay,
look it up. There's another one that just opened up too. It's called Baristas Bravos. And then the last one is Café Aether, Aether, like ether. I would love to go with you and take you there one day if you want coffee. The owner is a philosopher, and he's making insane, outside the box, like coffee drinks. Like he'll have like a salvia latte, so he'll go to have some salvia, some sage, and he'll make like a syrup out of that. And it's I don't drink lots of like sweet stuff, but that's really one of the few ones I drink. He also has like a tepache, half tepache and half cold brew. So it's it's refreshing and it's amazing. And again, these are all things like, oh shit, Tijuana has that? Yes, it fucking does.
Yeah.
If you give it a shot.
It's like a local thing.
It is locals.
But now, since locals are Americans, that's another aspect of it. Again, things are changing. Locals are Americans. Think about that. Tijuana is a place where Americans are locals, where weed gets trafficked from the U.S. into Mexico. And where there's a lot of hidden stuff like that, those cops.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me so much, Ed.
The project you have with LA, this LA Taco project. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
LA Taco is a crazy experiment that worked out. It's street level inclusive journalism. So we share the platform with people who have never written stories before, but they are leaders in their neighborhoods, and they write their own stories, and I coach them, I edit them, and we wanted James Beard for that philosophy. We are member supported, So we're not big. We know a lot of our people by a lot of our members by name. And the secret to our journalism is we so crazy. We find out where the best tacos are in every single neighborhood in LA, but we also do investigative journalism and like keep people in power accountable.
Yeah,
So
I've seen. It's like I don't know. Like I equate it to
weird.
like it's a super weird thing where I'm like, oh, these bastards can't get away with it. I'll go to those tacos next time I'm in LA.
Yeah, yeah. It's both. Yeah, it's a weird thing that I think can only exist in LA.
It's definitely something that is unique, and I get the aspect of it coming from a food specific place. When you talk about street vendors, community businesses run by people that are migrant community members, people that are legit proving that the American dream is real still, because some people are skeptical about it, but it's pretty real. I think it definitely has something to do with the politics around it and some of the community politics around it. I mean, in Tijuana, going to taco places usually something it's like a barber shop in a lot of places. You talk politics there too. So it's an interesting space for that to kind of like flow out of. The travel, the moving around, the experiencing new places, the trying to find the latest and greatest. It's a dopamine rush sometimes to find it. When it's not there, when travel's not an option, when it's just you, like what do you make for yourself?
Damn, that's a crazy question. No one's ever asked me that before.
I'll tell you mine. If you don't feel like, I'll tell you mine after if you want, or I can.
Yeah,
tell you.
tell me yours first.
I'll go to a place, a bar. There's a very specific butcher shop in La Cinco y Diez. People will know what I'm talking about. I'm not gonna burn my sources. There's a very specific butcher shop in La Cinco y Diez. I'll buy New York style flap steaks. New York flap steaks from there.
Yeah.
They marinate everything in house. It's amazing. I'll go to another store and buy the flour tortillas from a very specific lady that makes them that I like. She uses a lot of lard in her tortillas. And then I'll go buy specific avocados, aguacates, nothing else. Just aguacate, limon, sal. That's it. Smush it all together. Make a grill outside of my balcony and just sit down. Salsa campestre from a Baja company. Salsa campestre. I don't know what they put in that. Some sort of weird witchcraft. Just a red sauce that is just perfect on everything. And sometimes when I'm really just struggling with everything else, I can construct this thing for myself, this tesseract of happiness. I find peace in that. And specifically when I go out and do all the things that I do and find all these dopamine experiences and I come back. It's my meditation, I guess.
Well, the reason why that question caught me off guard is because like my wife is a recipe developer and cooks a lot. She cooks a lot at home, like for us, and
so it could be that like
she's usually but I want to answer your question head on. Like, what do I eat when I'm home alone? Like that's when she's away, and I'm like, I think I find myself wrapping everything with tortillas. That's just because it's sometimes
it's a napkin.
Yeah, it's whether it's
edible napkin.
We always bring back a lot of cheese from Mexico.
Yeah, that's a contraband. Fuck drugs. Cheese.
So we bring back a lot of cheese, like menonita, like asadero, like quesillo from Oaxaca, like whatever, all unpasteurized goodness. Have you seen that poster that says? It's a T-shirt and a poster, and it says like. Things that are illegal in the U.S. and things that are illegal, and it has a bunch of raw French cheeses, like mimolette, all these cheeses that are illegal in the U.S. because they're made with raw milk, but then it has like all these like guns that are illegal. Yeah. So it's like the comparison of like, what's legal. So I bring a lot of cheese. I eat a lot of eggs, like every other Mexican.
Huevos con chorizo.
Huevos con chorizo. I cook a lot of quesadillas. I eat a lot of beans.
Quesadillas.
I'm also really passionate about rice. I have probably like not mastered, but I've really worked my way up to knowing how to cook pilafs, like arroz rojo, what is people call Spanish rice for some reason.
Yeah.
Or like, Japanese rice, short grain rice, or jasmine rice. I love eating rice in all forms. So, but I cook it from scratch. Now I have a rice cooker if I'm lazy, but I really love cooking rice and messing up and learning how to make it better. So I'm like one of those cooks. I'm like, I do one thing and I just make it like a lot.
How's your arroz con leche?
Arroz con leche with coconut milk. Yeah, coconut milk. I love coconut milk. It's because sweetened condensed milk is a crutch, bro.
Yeah, I know.
It's a crutch, and so many Mexican matriarchs just add that shit to everything.
Échale lechera.
And it's like you're drinking an horchata, and you're like, this is really good. Why?
Let me lechera.
You're having a leches cake. Oh, why? This is really good. Why? Lechera. You're having
sweet ass condensed milk.
You're having like a gelatina. Why is it so good? Oh, lechera. You're having arroz con leche. Why? Oh, arroz. It's like
wow. My grandmother's coffee was so good. Why? Lechera.
Also, the other crutch in Mexican cooking is Nor Suiza.
Nor Suiza, yeah.
It's a chicken bouillon powder. It's essentially just chicken flavored MSG. No shame on MSG. MSG is an ingredient just like every other ingredient. But a lot of Mexican moms, I mean, it's even in salsas.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know that.
Yeah.
Whenever you have like a salsa and you're like, you just can't stop scooping on your tacos and you almost want to just drink, like you want to sip like a soup. It's because it probably has chicken bouillon powder in that shit. And there's no rules. The rules, you set the rules. But I don't know. I've learned through my wife that like it's better to just kind of cook chicken and use that broth to cook your rice instead of just like putting a powder, like a magic powder in it.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on and having this conversation about food, life, and writing, and basically how to bring some of your experiences to other people's lives and inspire. I know I've definitely been inspired by some of your stuff, and it's made me think a little bit more about the act of going to a taco cart and what that actually means, not just for myself, but also for the people that work there, for the people that live in that city, for the memories that are usually made in places where there's a little bit of risk, and how those are usually the stories we talk about afterwards. So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that means a lot to me. Thanks so much for having me. I gotta say, I've been invited to a lot of podcasts. I've done a lot of podcasts. I usually say no to a lot of them now because they're all the same old shit. But doing this interview with you is unlike anything else I've ever done. I think maybe because also like, I don't know, you and I have like
we had an adventure. So
an adventure, but also like, I don't know, we have some kind of chemistry, and it's a no matter how much you prepare for an interview on this show, you always find a way of disarming your subject mentally. So props on you. Because I'm also like an interviewer and a reporter, so I know like you took a lot of a different approach to interviewing, and you've like freeballed it essentially, right? Because you just
I'm legit interested. So
that's a lost art, and like I just I can't wait to keep on listening to your podcast. And thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on, and let's go get some tacos.
Oh, man, I'm dying for some tacos. Let's go.